like, why not play 6 bounce spells in the main? And I mean, I'm not going to continue doing that. I can see maybe like a fifth, like a single into the Floodmaw, like a cheeky one of that, for instant speed, like bounce, tempo interaction. But it hasn't been super. Like every time I've drawn them, they've just kind of felt like, that's not what I want. But yeah, this is what I've been running today, and it's 3 monuments. The sideboard is basically the same. I have an extra flash freeze in there now, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, I was trying to gun for the mirror a little bit, but what I did was a bit different. Like, I think in my list, I had like one or two of braids. I'm not sure about them, but they're like, you know, they're obviously better than combustion technique in the mirror. Obviously, they're probably worse in every other
Yeah.
matchup. But I mean, the braids are kind of a big deal because, like, when you play the mirror, a lot of the times it's like, obviously abrading the monument's a big deal. So that's like one way I could see hedging for the mirror. Also, in the new set, there's gonna be spell snare, so like maybe you can play one. Like, I don't know if it'll
Ooh,
be good or not in the deck, but like, yeah, maybe you can play one or two main, and that could be good in the mirror. Um, and
that's pretty good. Yeah.
yeah, well, although I feel like,
It's
yeah, like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, that's the one that hits a 2 mana spells, right?
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, people are saying that'll it'll be good against lessons, but they can, we'll see. And what else? Also, like abandoned attachments is probably kind of subtly good in the mirror because it just makes your deck more consistent. In a way. And
Yeah.
the other one is the Quencha one. Yeah, I was playing a couple of Idle Quenchas just because it felt like I don't know. I thought it was like a solid interaction, and after Worlds there was more non-creature decks, weird combo decks and stuff. That's also solid in the mirror. So that's some thoughts on that. But I mean, I realized like I kind of got higher on the abandoned attachments just because like the monument, like it just makes the deck more functional. You know what I mean? Like you have it kind of reminds me of VV Cauldron a bit, where like you have cards that need to have enabler to function. You know what I mean? Like monument doesn't do anything by itself; it needs to have an enabler. And you count the enablers, and it's like, okay, I got 4 talents, but then beyond that, it's like I have these grands which are good with it, but they're not always reliable. So then like abandoned attachments is like, okay, like if I have abandoned and monument, then my monument's going to do something. And obviously, just with all the lessons nonsense. I mean, I guess it's like I'm gaslighting people because I was like abandoned attachments is the worst card in the deck. Then I'm like, well, actually, I like 4 abandoned attachments because it makes everything work. But it does remind me of Steam Core Scholar in the VV Cauldron deck, where it's like it just makes like you have all these setup cards, and it just like makes them work, kind of like it works with art. Like you know what I mean? It's just like it's
Yeah.
like you have all these cards, yeah, that need it's like A plus B, and it just makes them work. So I like that about them. And yeah, we can get into it. Yeah.
Cool. I have
What's
one
yeah.
more question for you. How's have you seen the teamer list? Like it's basically splashing green for the
Disenchant?
green disenchant. Yeah, like do you have any thoughts on that? It's like all over the top eight in the challenges and stuff, and like I think I've seen a sideboard guide pop up for it and stuff, but I haven't like actually. I ran into it at one point, I think yesterday or something. Seemed pretty good against me, like in the mirror, I guess. But I was wondering if you had any thoughts on it.
Well, I would say that I was skeptical at first because like this deck is kind of a low land count deck, so like trying to splash, trying to splash in cantrip decks, you know what I mean? It's naturally harder because you're playing a
Yeah.
low land count. Um, so I was just sketching. I'm like, yeah, like I was looking at the list. I'm like, just splashing for like origins of metal bending, and I was like, do you? I don't know. Like, you can just play spell pierce. Like, do you need a lesson of it? I mean, like I was playing. Like I was telling you, I was playing. Let's just like I feel like the interaction in the blue red suite's like fine. Like, yeah, spell pierce and all. I mean, I don't know. Like, I could believe. If somebody wants to, if you really feel like you want to disenchant, I wouldn't say, that don't do it. But it didn't tempt me because I was like, yeah, I don't want to mess up the mana, and I feel like I have good interaction. Like I can play, in nulls, I can play a braid, I can play spell pierce. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay. I had similar thoughts. Like so I've stayed away from it on purpose, but yeah, starting to see it more often, and so just wanted to hear your thoughts.
Yeah,
Cool. Yeah. We can get into
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean,
So
yeah, we can get into it. Yeah, it's funny because Origins of Metal Bending was like a bad. It has anybody who played a lot of Sealed has a bad feeling about it because green was probably the worst color in that limited format. So like all the green cards, like it was just not a good time when you had to play them. That's why I have a bad impression of it. I'm like, man, like yeah, okay. Anyway, so yeah, yeah, this is a nice hand. I mean, my only problem with the Flood I would say is that just like you have 4 boomerang basics that does the same thing, but I guess that that goes without saying, obviously, and you're
yeah,
covered.
that's basically the conclusion I came to today. So
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
feel like Boomerang Basics. Yeah, like the like yeah like. Anyway, we can keep going. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is
Yeah.
a nice, a beautiful hand here. It's
Oh,
like
this
a
looks
Michelin
great.
star, plate. You know, they say they plating, the plating. Okay. So yeah, playing Grand Grand seems pretty reasonable. Bouncing their guys pretty sad.
Yeah.
So
Didn't even, you know, seem like an option.
yeah,
Their start was pretty wild though.
yeah, you need your Iroh's intervention. Okay, so it's just good. Okay, yeah, so yeah, this is kind of interesting, I guess. So like, yeah, this is kind of
So,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, first decision point, I guess. I mean, I guess I could attack, right? And if they double block, I can kill like the chocobo. Um, and I mean, it's probably. I mean, this allows me to. I guess the problem with that is it locks me into like I have to play a land first, and then it locks me into having to flood maw possibly, in elves. Um, but very likely they don't even block anyway, right? So the attack seems kind of free. I
yeah. I
guess the
mean,
only punish royal treatment or something.
yeah, that's the thing. Only thing I'd keep in mind: royal treatment, and how you might react. Like, imagine if you attack and they double block, and then you go to combustion technique their chocobo, and then they royalize, and it'll be kind of awkward. So it's like you could almost consider, like if they did double block, you might almost want to like flood mod the chocobo, because then like they have to royal treatment, and if they don't royal treatment, then you just eat their land war elves. So
Like
that's
that
one
line
thing
that
that's
allows me to, yeah. So and even with that line, like flood maw on the chocobo, I think I'm playing the land first, right?
yeah. Like I would play the land first, because otherwise, if you flood maw and then they royal treatment, then like your grand dies. But if you have the land, then obviously you just trade and then you eat their elves. But yeah, like it seems unlikely they will. They like if they block, it's really good for you. But yeah, like you don't need to get too paranoid about the Spire Bluff Canal, because you know what I mean. You still have a land drop next turn.
Right.
Like you can play the lands here, and yeah, I would probably just play the land, attack, loot away. See what you loot away, and if they double block, then
Yeah.
that'll be good for us. And they probably can't double block.
Yeah. So I obviously did nothing like that because
Did you have the Spire Bluff Canal paranoia or something?
yeah, I'm really bad at the decision trees, man. It's like I need to like my issue is I've never actually been good at Magic. Even when I was like topping the ladder and stuff, like I'm just really good at retaining heuristics and implementing those heuristics. And in a deck like this, like there's very few heuristics that actually just can stay like it's not linear, you know what I mean? So yeah, there's just so many decision points that I find myself like I actually have to think in real time often. I can't be on autopilot and just like follow muscle memories and stuff like that. And I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think that's my real issue with this deck. But it's still been good for me though. Like it forces me to have to like more active thinking, which I generally don't do when I'm playing Magic. So it's been good for my brain.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, I mean, this deck is, you could say it's harder than most decks. So there was a good old quote from Huey, where one time somebody asked Huey, what do you think the hardest deck is? And he's like, that's a dumb question, because whatever deck you play, you're gonna play bad anyway. So every deck is equally hard by that logic. Obviously, I guess it doesn't. I can see why like that doesn't, his thing doesn't completely stand, but it is true to a degree that like whatever deck you play, you're probably gonna make mistakes but yeah, I mean, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you can almost say that's like a good, yeah, you can try and lean into the good part of that. Like that's kind of what's interesting about some of these decks is that whatever. I mean, that's one thing. Like I feel like in Magic in general, you can show like any screenshot of any what's the play, and there's always a little bit of contextual things that change stuff, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
understanding that's good. And yeah, with this deck, it's always like understanding there's like subtle pros and cons that are unique, yeah, to the situation. But I mean, I probably said it before, but like I think probably one of my biggest aha moments in Magic was when I realized that like most of playing well was more about being diligent than being that smart in the game. Like I was like I just realized like from watching some people who are really good, I'm like they never really say anything that smart, but every turn they just think about their options and then they don't do something stupid. And like they never really do anything
Yeah.
that seems that smart, but like they just do that every turn and then they just never make any bad plays. Like you could say that's kind of the Reed Duke recipe. Not, I mean, if he's listening, he might be like, "What the hell did he just say?" But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, if you watch a stream though, like, he's not saying anything that's like blowing your mind, like 5D chess, like LSB blindfolded or whatever. But yeah, so I definitely think that's good to be aware of. Like, I think like if your goal is to win, I mean, obviously there's different approaches, but I think I mean, I actually think that's like I might have said it before, but I think that's kind of like a dangerous misconception because people look at a good player, they see somebody like LSV or Shota, and those guys are playing on intuition half the time. But it's kind of like I would use like a glasses analogy that like it's like those guys have 20/20 vision, so they can run around and they see stuff. But most people have like horrible vision, so you can't
Yeah,
just run
I
around.
like
You're gonna
that.
bump into stuff. I mean that's why most people don't win as much as like if you know like you know what I mean. Like I think that
Yeah,
if you just yeah like if you it's really good to just take the time to think through the lines and like I find that's an easy way to get an edge because like, yeah I know a lot of people who like you know like are probably not like the smartest magic players but they win the most just because they're really diligent with their choices and yeah so I think that's a good
yeah.
thing to be
Oh,
aware of like I
yeah,
don't
I think if I just stop to take a beat, like take a beat and like actually think through all the different, even the non-obvious ones. I think that's where I think my magic intuition is like really bad, and so it might seem like there's only two or three obvious lines, but like even the bad ones or the ones that seem bad might actually be more intuitive. And I find myself like when we're talking, you'll point stuff out that to me in the moment seem like, oh, that would be bad to do, but there's actually like a really good reason to do it. And you're thinking like maybe two or three turns ahead. You're thinking about what the opponent might have, the biggest punish, whatever. Um, and so yeah, I think you're completely right. Like I should probably just stop and think through all my different options and think through the cause and effect of some of these lines and see if I could do better that way. But yeah,
yeah I mean I would
here I
say
am in Moto hell, just kind of not thinking and jamming
yeah I
every.
mean I would say like the hard part about thinking through all the lines is it takes like a lot of effort like I don't know if I said it last time but like one trick I use sometimes is like I pretend I even said a joke about this one time that I said like when you watch people play an important match and they like completely like freak out because they're so used to just playing quickly, but then they actually have to play a win in or something, so they completely zone out like that. But I was like if
Yeah,
you just play your matches like as if if you just pretend every match is like the world championship finals, then it'll be way easier to focus because you know what I mean. Like sometimes you don't like it's like hard to
yeah,
always put in the focus and the effort to do it. But like if you wanna, that can be an analogy if you like, or just at least be aware of like, am I focusing? Like I don't know if I was telling you like sometimes when I play arena, I want to listen to music, but I know like I'm not gonna think if I do that. And then just being like meta aware of like
yeah,
what are you trying to do in the moment? Like am I trying to like whatever. So it's just worth being aware. Also, I would say like there's some good like if you ever watch people play Magic, like if you watch some of the videos, like Simon Nielsen or Paulo or some other people have, you can see in their analysis like how detail oriented they are. Like I remember one of the first times I watched Simon's videos, I thought it was like a stupid thought, but I thought like, wow, I thought this guy was good. Why is he taking 5 minutes to explain every line? But then you realize, oh, that's why, that's why he's good because he's taking. That's kind of what I'm getting at. You know what I mean? Like people have this idea that like being good at Magic means you're not really, it's just kind of know intuitively. But then you watch like the Simon videos, and like, if yeah, I don't know if you've seen his videos, but they're like insane. He's taking like
no, I
5 minutes
yeah,
to talk about every single line, and then you're like, oh yeah, maybe that's why that guy top aided like 5 PTs in a row because he's so detail oriented. But like that, it's hard to have that level. Like that's the thing. Like you watch the Simon videos and you realize, oh, like no, like most people are not going to be that detail oriented. That's kind of the edge. It's kind of hard to have that sort of level of I'm going to take a moment to think through all my options every turn. But I think that's where like yeah, like if your goal is like you really want to win, I think that's a pretty good. It's good to be aware like it's like a methodical and takes effort to think through the lines and being meta aware of them.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'll check out the Simon videos. I know you mentioned his YouTube channel. Like, I don't know if it's still active or whatever, but I mean, yeah, it sounds like it's definitely worth
Yeah.
looking at.
Well, it's a
Yeah,
he does a really good example of the defensive aggro because like if you watch his videos, he's always saying like I'm gonna play this threat because it like limits the threats my opponent can play. So it's a good crash course in that concept for
that's
sure.
awesome.
But anyway,
Yeah,
yeah, we can keep on. But like also like I'll say like the problem is like you can be aware that like you want to think through all your lines, but the problem is just like the way the brain is like you always want to find like cheat like heuristics. You always like the brain always wants to be lazy, so it's like an eternal
yeah,
tug of war. You know what I mean? Like as soon as the game starts, like that's why the meta awareness, like knowing that like every decision in Magic is hard, it has like a unique because like the trick, the problem is like if you have too much heuristics and you're like, oh, this is this situation, so I'm gonna do this. But if you're aware that like, oh, like every situation it's a little bit different, there's a little bit different pros and cons. But obviously, there's stuff like maybe you should play whatever on turn one. And anyway, and like sometimes even you're thinking and you're like, oh, this is like let's say it's turn one, you're thinking, oh, should I play Grand or Talent? And you're like, oh, this is dumb. Like I'm just gonna play one. You know what I mean? Like again, or like you know what I mean? It seems like
Yeah,
so granular, but it is kind of weird because like sometimes it's right to play the Grand like if your opponent passes with mana up, sometimes it's right to play Talent, sometimes it's right to play Grand, and it depends on small details. Like like if you have Boomerang basics, maybe you want to hold on to the Talent because then if they spell pierce or annul your Talent, it's really bad. But like let's say your hands, really like if you don't have Boomerang basics, I don't know. You see what I mean? So it's like it
yeah.
actually is sometimes correct to play one or the other, and it actually does kind of matter. But anyway, yeah, we can keep going.
Dude, yeah, that point about like the brain being wanting to be lazy, that resonates quite a bit for me. So I discarded the monument here because I drew one. They don't take the
Yeah.
bait. And then
Oh,
I
yeah, this
think I
is
went
interesting.
for yeah. So I I, I mean the chocobo. I do have a flood maw. I could reset it. It'll probably get out of hand next turn, given all the mana that they have. But they're very if they hit their land drop, they're gonna have four lands anyway, which is kind of the key. Like all their good spells, at four lands, they're able to deploy them anyway. So I figured I might as well, or at least I'm just me thinking out loud. I think I'm thinking firebending lesson on the chocobo now, and then just bounce whatever it is that they do. Um, it is kind of weird if I miss a land drop, but I can like I have a combustion technique up, and hopefully I can play a monument, depending on what they do. But and if they do nothing, like maybe they Esper Origins twice or something like that, then at least I'm in a position to attack with Grand. So it felt like firebending on the Chocobo made sense. As I'm thinking through it, I can kind of see a case for leave the Chocobo alone, keep Floodmaw up, and then firebending on the Elf. Maybe they miss a land drop. Maybe they kept this hand because they had two elves and two lands. Who knows? But that seems pretty speculative.
Yeah, I mean, I would say there's like a few interesting things going on here, and even the discard option could be kind of interesting because it's like, well, like number one, I'm already thinking like, oh, if we use both our one drops this turn, next turn, then it might be harder to but to cast multiple spells next turn. But obviously we have the Grand, so we could potentially get the discount. So that's kind of something I'm keeping in mind, and that's why I like it is pretty like this turn is kind of hard because there's almost in the back of your head, you know. It's funny because yesterday I was berating you like don't go all in on the discount, but one thing here is if you like actually frame like sometimes it's good to frame like why somebody's ahead or why somebody's behind, and you look here and you know what I mean. Especially if you're somebody who wants to play,
Yeah.
if you're trying to reinforce why you think your deck's better than another person's deck, but you're behind in the game. It's like okay, like let's look what's happening here. So like they went triple one drop, and you went grand, but your hand's a bunch of two drops. It's kind of slow, so like you can easily fall behind here, right? And it's like okay, like why can you
Yeah.
fall behind? Because like they played a bunch of one drops, and you might have to use a 2 mana removal spell on a 1 mana play, and whatever. So it's like, okay, like what's the most powerful? What does our one drop do? It's like the most powerful thing our one drop does is discount spells. So it's like, okay, can we lean into that? So it's like, okay, like then you'd have to be like, okay, can I, should I, consider discarding a lesson? But obviously, the second
Well,
monument's not that valuable, so it is kind of a close choice. And like maybe you can get to the three lessons next turn anyway, because maybe you go cast a burn spell this turn, next turn you untap, cast another burn spell, loot, and then you get the discount. But there's a lot of like kind of weird things. But I guess like one thing to keep in mind is just like yeah, just planning out like I would be like, and also the thing with the flood mods, I feel like it's kind of sometimes they call it speculative value. Like the thing is, if we cast
yeah.
firebending lesson, I would be asking like, why don't we just cast like a combustion technique? Because like, or do we want to cast the flood mod this turn? If not, maybe we should cast the combustion technique. That's one thing I would be thinking. Like I guess like when you're casting
Yeah.
firebending lesson, are you thinking like you want to flood mod this turn? Like if like I still you're gonna bounce at end of turn, or are you thinking like
Yeah, I was actually originally thinking like discard a combustion technique, use a combustion technique, and then put myself in a position to basically firebending lesson and accumulate wisdom. For like so, and that guarantees I can hit my land drop. I'll still have a flood maw. Like that was my original line of thinking, but um, I think I got like paranoid that I'm gonna end up wasting the combustion technique, and if I waste, so if I discard one and then use one, um, I
You
guess
can't
I
kill
mean
an
as
ice
I'm thinking
drill.
through it, yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's what
it
like
like
you can't kill a
get
night form.
blown out by like an ice still or a might form or something. But I guess I could also kind of just trust the deck and say that accumulate wisdom might pull me out of that, right? Because I enable it next turn with 2 mana only.
Yeah, I don't
Uh,
hate discarding the like because you could see a line where you might go, like there might be a line where you go like you could like this like you could maybe cast all your removal, right? Like maybe you go this turn, you cast the terminate, then next turn you go untap, then you go like
yeah,
firebending lesson, then you attack, then maybe you accumulated wisdom. Well, like it depends if they have a blocker or not, so it gets kind of tricky. But like there's a world where you could potentially cast all the removal spells, so maybe you want to hold it. And now you're like, if like let's say you go discard the technique and then technique the chocobo, maybe they could play a big creature like a might form, and then you're like, wow, I don't have any terminate to discard them all. But though this is a situation now where like we do have both the terminates. So like if we do terminate the chocobo, um, you know what I mean? Like we might not need, you know what I mean? Like we already have a terminate, I guess is what I'm saying. So like at this stage when we're here, like between firebending lesson and technique, like what would you be thinking now? Like would you be like, I want a firebending lesson to
yeah.
chocobo because it deals less damage, or is like, yeah, what are you thinking?
No, I guess as you were talking, what seems to be the most, I guess, safe is I can technique the chocobo now. This is, going with the line of discarding the monument. Technique the chocobo. Next turn, regardless of what they play, I can discard a firebending lesson and, or actually, no, that doesn't work. Never mind. I'd have to hit a land drop. Um, yeah, never mind. Yeah, for a moment I thought maybe there's a world where I can like basically unload, like 3 lessons into the graveyard if I technique this turn. But yeah, I don't know. I guess like with the monument in the grave, like I mean, I could still probably technique. Like it's not the worst, right? Because if I draw a land, I mean, I'm in a pretty good position. I very likely am double spelling with accumulate wisdom and technique, on whatever 4 drop they play. Um, if I don't draw a land, like the worst case scenario is that I'm gonna have to, like flood maw or something, and then just like wait another turn. It doesn't seem terrible, right?
Well, which line did you say doesn't seem terrible? I lost track at the end there.
Like if I combustion technique the
Yeah.
chocobo now, and then like basically if I draw a land, I'm in pretty decent shape. I'm gonna double spell and I'm gonna draw 3 cards and I'm gonna kill their biggest thing.
Yeah.
And if I don't draw a land, I can just time walk them and then basically just set up for next turn.
Yeah, that's I was just like that's just what I was wondering was like, like if you're, at this stage, like what do you see as the upside to firebending lesson? Or maybe I guess anyway, maybe I guess yeah, we can uh maybe
Yeah.
keep
So
going. And
yeah,
also
like
yeah.
what I was thinking when I was doing this, because I do think I end up firebending lesson, is to basically save my removal. Like that, it was just very simplistic thinking.
Yeah,
And
you're like, I
so
want the big removal for the big guys. But like
exactly,
the
yeah.
other thing is keeping in mind, yeah, it's just the mana efficiency and like, are we gonna cast Flood Maw this turn? But it's like, okay, maybe you will
Right.
cast Flood Maw, but then it's also like, yeah, I'm keeping it. Like you can see this deck's tricky because of the discount makes it unclear. Because I'm always thinking like, oh, like I have a bunch of 2 drops and 3 drops. I want to like save my 1 drop so I can multi spell later. Um,
Yeah.
and then yeah, so they play
And then,
I still
this is like the weirdest. I mean, I get rewarded here, not for doing a good play, but because opponent is actually stuck on land and just had to
yeah.
play and make it ice still. And so like that was decent, I guess. And then I draw boomerang basics.
Yeah, so
So
you can you can get the discount, and then it's gonna be tricky for them. Yeah, so you can probably start by attacking. Maybe we'll
yeah.
see, and then let's see. Okay, that
Oh
makes this
man.
turn really easy. Yeah, because now you can just go combustion technique their elf, and you could even if it was post board, you might consider Ancestraling, so they can't play a Keen-Eyed Curator, but since it's game one, yeah. Anyway, I guess we can
I
keep going.
actually thought about discarding Combustion Technique, play the basics, and the Monument, and then set up for like a really big next turn with the Wisdom. I think that's what I ended up doing. Is there? I guess like the punish is Keen-Eyed Curator, right? Like they run one in their deck. But having like, okay, I'm gonna have a Combustion Technique next turn that's discounted, a Wisdom, Monument, and Grand, like have the engine online. That felt like it puts me in the best position, especially with them like missing lands and stuff. So I think that's the route that I went.
Well, I guess like the one question, I mean, I guess it is kind of like a tricky turn or whatever, but I would say that like there's like some weird things going on because like the problem is if you bounce the Llanowar Elves, that's kind of minus card advantage for yourself, but they're stuck on lands, so you're like, oh, that's good because I'm hurting their mana, right? Like they're stuck on lands, but it is a permanent permanent loss of card advantage. So to say, I don't know, I said that dramatically. I was almost gonna, but I was gonna say like one thing is like I don't like the thing about your monument is like I was saying like you're not your monuments like I don't know if you're in a big rush to cast it here because like I would say like a lot of times I'm looking at cast monuments like if I don't have anything else like so like your main card that enables the monument is the Grand thing. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is like I think you could potentially just play monument next turn. It's not like you have artist talent. It's not like you have abandoned attachments. Like right now on its surface, the whatever it's called, the monument's only like I guess what I'm trying to say is like I don't know, like you could go like discard Boomerang Basics, Combustion Technique at Elf, and then you could either Combustion Technique or play Accumulated Wisdom. But it's like I don't know if that's going to stop you from having a big Monument turn because next turn you can just cast the Monument for 2 mana if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that's a good
Um,
point. Yeah.
and but this way you're gonna like get a cast like this way you don't have to cast the Boomerang Basics, which is like giving you minus cards because like also like what's the Monument doing that's good? Like it's always good to like wonder like what are the cards doing that's good, and it's like so that you can evaluate it. It's like the monument's good because it draws me card, but if I boomerang basics, their elves have minus drawing myself a card. Well, obviously it's weird because you're probably in the back of your head, you're like monument actually equals draw my deck, but like for the meantime, you know what I mean? It's just draw one card. But anyway, yeah, like it is
Yeah,
kind of
and
tricky. Yeah,
your line is a lot better. Is because so basically I'll be able to play accumulate wisdom. So I discard Boomerang Basics. I Combustion Technique and Elf. I play Accumulate Wisdom, and then next turn I'm deploying a Monument for 2, and I still have a Combustion Technique and a bunch of other cards, and I'm very likely going to be able to get in with Grand and get value off the Monument. So your play gets value off the Monument on the same turn as my play, except my play basically sacrifices a removal spell and has like negative card advantage, like you said. Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
and also like as you were saying, yeah, you're discarding the combustion technique anyway. I mean, to me, like the big decision tree here is like, should we go like double combustion technique to elves? Should we go like combustion technique plus wisdom? Because they kind of have small nuances, with each of them. And that's like as you're saying, there's like small pros and cons to each, right? Because it's like, and like I guess one thing to keep in mind when you're deciding these small pros and cons is like sometimes it gets tricky where like you just assume you're too far ahead, so you like kind of be like, I want to take the line that's always going to win. But when you realize there's always trade offs, then it's more easy to like take a line that's like one league people have is they always get like way too conservative because they think they're too ahead, and then it can like be a slow, and then they like value you know what I mean? They think of the most like obvious thing that can go wrong without the subtle thing. If that I mean that wasn't the best way of saying it, but
Yeah, I've fallen for that before. Yep.
but I guess what I'm saying is like yeah I mean there was an old interview with and I think they said it was a Japanese player's band I forgot his name now but they said asked him like in one sentence what do you think makes a good Magic player and he said to know when they're ahead and behind and play accordingly, you know what I mean, and I think that's kind of true.
Yeah.
It's kind of it is a really hard skill to be like am I behind enough that I can afford to play around this or am I or do what risk do I take? Because that's exactly here. It's like should I, for example, play double combustion technique, or should I hold the? It's like why would I hold the technique? And it's like as you're saying, maybe if they somehow play Keen-Eyed Curator, then holding the technique lets you like attack with the Grand into the Elf, whatever. But it's like okay, killing the Elf, whatever. I mean not whatever. Like let's say you only kill one Elf and play Wisdom, then they could go like um land. I guess they can't go Fable Passage Ice Hill, so they can't really do a sick. They can't really do a sick 4-drop in that way. But they could go like Badger. Anyway, I guess what I'm saying is it's kind of tricky anyway. But yeah, so we can keep going. But yeah, I do think it's kind of tricky between the wisdom and the whatever, and it gets harder post
Yeah,
board
it's
obviously
interesting.
because post board people have more hate and whatever, graveyard hate. That's something you learn with Phoenix. Like that's you definitely learn to like try and use my graveyard hates, try and use my graveyard cards as soon as possible, so to minimize, you know, the impact of them playing a hate cards.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So yeah. Here
yeah,
I went with a
yeah,
line that
yeah, yeah.
originally
Well, yeah,
said
yeah.
now.
Well, I just mean like in game one, a lot of times you don't need to worry about wisdom. You can just be like, I can play wisdom at my leisure. But post board, you're more aware of soul guide lanterns and such, and then you're more likely to want to play the wisdom earlier. That's just a good
Yeah,
thing.
that makes a lot of sense. I honestly, if this was post board, I definitely think I would have tried to set up for a wisdom this turn.
Yeah, just in case they had
Um,
soul guide or something of the
yeah,
sort. Okay, so yeah, here they
they
have a
play
lumbering
three
deck,
drop. Yep,
and they let you have your fun, I guess, as they say.
they got their land.
Yeah, so you just wisdom. Yeah, and then I could even see you attack first before playing a land. Good Paulo technical play, I guess they would call it.
Yeah.
Then yeah, you discard
Yeah, that's
Spy Bluff. Yeah,
incremental learnings from me, from you really.
yeah,
And so I have another wisdom, which I think I want to pop off here. I don't see a reason not to.
yeah. This is like
Um,
a micro decision of which land to use, but it's kind of like doesn't matter probably. So like
yeah,
it's kind of like you can.
I, yeah, like I don't remember why I
Oh,
thought
it
that was
but
bad.
actually the punish happened. The punish happened. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, should I, gamble for a verge, or should I just like, yeah, because I wanted to be able to double, red spell. Yeah, it happened.
Yeah, well, it's like, well, yeah, it's kind of interesting because it's like, if you just like with a specific spot, it's like the thing about here, it's like if like let's say you play the accumulated wisdom and then you have to name red to like play double red spells, but that's not necessarily that bad. Like it's not obvious if it's that bad because you have a bunch of red spells and whatever. But yeah, and then like it's like, but what's the punish? That I
Yeah,
had draw like two verges and an artist talent, and then it happens, and you're like, oh, I lost 2 life. But like in a real game, it's probably not even worth thinking about that much because it's just like nothing. Like the worst case scenario, like I paid 2 life in a matchup where like my life's probably not going to matter this game. I mean, it always matters a little bit. It's always value, but anyway. So yeah, you play artist
yeah.
talents.
It's
Yeah,
usually, I mean, they're usually swinging in for 40 or whatever.
yeah,
And then I think firebending on the elf here is pretty free, right?
yeah.
I'm gonna
Make
get
a
a card
treasure.
back from making
Yeah,
a treasure. Yeah.
yeah. Because you yeah. Yeah, so makes sense. Do this. Then you make a treasure.
Didn't discard the grand. I don't know what happened there. I mean, I think
What?
that should be the discard, right? Or
Yeah,
I
it could
might
be
have missed
better. I mean, I guess they're I mean, maybe they have like a theme rip or what. Like, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like some of them, some of the lists. I looked at the list while I was playing. Some of them are main boarding seam rips.
Yeah.
I think I was thinking about that.
Well, also
It's hard
there's
to
like a
remember.
couple things. I mean, also there's like there might be a world where you attack with Grand and it dies in combat, and then you play one post combat. But it's also like you probably won't need the land anyway because you already have a land drop for next turn, and like you're gonna draw so many cards anyway. If that makes sense. So
Yeah.
like the heuristic might be like, oh, I might as well keep the spell over another land, you know. So, but
Yeah. Yeah.
even if
So
it's marginal,
maybe not
yeah.
the
Okay, so
worst
they try and go for
hate
the
here.
combo. Yeah, let's see if they
Yeah,
have
feeling pretty
stable.
good about
Yeah,
this.
yeah. Let's see if they
I'm,
crew it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think they were just trying to go for. They didn't even have a land drop.
Yeah, imagine if they had a
They
land, then you would have to think because you're like, oh, what if they have royal treatment?
Yeah, that would be a weird mind
Or I
game right
wonder if there
there.
was any consideration to almost like no, this is fine. Okay, yeah, so this is like reasonable, I guess. I mean, I don't know if this is the I guess this way you get to cast this, you get the treasure. Sure, seems fine. I mean, now it's just a scoop. Well played.
Yeah,
It's
I think
over.
that's the only game I won here.
Okay,
So
starting on a high note.
yeah,
Yeah, let's see
um,
the
so I'm still kind of on the no Storm Chaser plan. I started bringing the Spell Pierce after you brought up the point that it hits the
three
enchantment and the
downs.
wagon.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I got the two flash freeze to piss off the green people. You
Yeah.
should. I put you Owl in my list because I'm like I saw the super that standard thing on Tuesday. Did you see how much green was in the top? I don't know if you saw the top 32.
I haven't seen
That,
like the super cube. I haven't
yeah,
looked at
there
that.
was a lot of green. It was like I think there's like three in the top eight. There was just a ton in the top 32, and I was
Oh
like,
man.
fuck it, like. And I was saying nobody has Owl. Like, is this a joke? Like, I'm taking the Owl out.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see. Yeah, I mean,
So
I would say, yeah, I mean, I'm seeing some advanced sideboarding here. I mean, do you want to talk about that for a second? I
oh,
mean,
so this is it's funny you call it advanced. This is Nathan Stoyer's plan right here. Like he shared
yeah.
in his Discord, like his Patreon Discord or whatever. Like he's like, I go full control. I shave a grand on the draw. And so all I'm doing here is kind of implementing his plan. You know, he saves a monument and stuff, and so
Does he have like the
I,
same list with the Flood Moths, or is that because?
he doesn't have the flood mods. No, that was just my bullshit. He's not that
Well, I was just
crazy.
thinking like it might change the total, like the dynamic of how the sideboard plan, right? Because it's like a sideboard guide, but his list is a little bit different. But I guess it's pretty
Yeah,
similar.
like he's not shaving boomerangs. I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's not. And so like I basically was like, okay, I have I'll keep the instant speed bounce in place of the sorcery speed. And I'm taking out the storm chasers. So like that was my thinking there. But yeah, I'm running 5 is still way too
Well,
much.
I guess the reason I'm skeptical of shaving the Grand, we can go back for a second just to look at it, get it in HD, 1080p, 4K. And I don't. Well, when I just think on like a bigger picture of the matchup, I feel like the green deck, like this is like it's always good to think like what are the weaknesses of decks, and I feel like the weakness of the green deck is probably its interaction suite, and like what they're weakest to is you just playing a threat. Because like think about some of their cards like Lumbering Broodwagon, Icetail Explorer. They have all these cards that make a lot of value and are kind of hard to interact with, but
Yeah.
so it's like, what is the weakness of like what's the weakness of Lumbering Broodwagon, right? Because obviously interacting with it, I mean, you have annuls and some counters, so obviously if you counter, it's good. But generally, what's the weakness of the card? The weakness is your opponent playing a threat and then beating you down. So I feel like one of the things the green deck's actually weak to, same as Icetail, it's kind of hard to like. They have a lot of cards that are kind of hard to interact with, if you see what I mean. And I feel like
Yeah.
when someone has threats that are hard to interact with, one of the best ways to take advantage of it is like use your own threats because they don't have defense against it. And I just I could imagine some advanced reasons
Wow.
for trimming a Grand, but I'm just like I'm thinking like they have all these threats that are hard to interact with. I want to punish them by having my own threats, and I'm like Grand's a 1-drop. It enables my go wide stuff. It like eats the theme rip so that my talents can live, and
Yeah.
and it's just like it's a 1-drop in like a really tempo matchup. Like Boomerang Basics is not like if you just think about what cards you want to cast on turn one here, it's like you don't want to cast these bounce spells on turn one. Literally, the only spell you want to cast on turn one is Firebending Lesson. And like it's not like you're going to cast another like maybe if they go turn one Llanowar Elf, turn two Jam Thing, you can play another Spell Pierce. But a lot of times it's just going to play a Badger like a 2-drop or whatever on turn two, maybe a
Yeah.
Super
No,
Act
really
or
good
whatever it's
point.
called. Yeah, so I'm just viewing that as great. I just like I think like what's the weakness of Grand? I mean it's hard for it to be too weak, but it's like maybe your opponent has a lot of removal, maybe they can block her easily. But like we have a lot of removal to like get her past blockers. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're playing green, that's actually one thing I will say. Like I was playing the green deck, and I was like literally shitting my pants if they had a Grand on turn one because I was like, if they have a Grand on turn one, it was actually pissing me off because I'm like the problem wasn't just that she sets up the draw straight. It's the discount. Like when you get the discount with the Grand, you know what I mean? It's crazy. Like you
It's
untap on
insane. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what was pissing me off because I was playing the green deck and I'm like, so I don't even have I'm just casting Lumbering Broodwagons like a Muppet, and I'm like, I just need a fade. I'm like, I need a fade. You know what I mean? So that's why I would say that's one thing. Like, I would say play the like landfall deck yourself, and like
Yeah.
see how much you fear Grand. That's why I'm a bit more. I mean, I'm not saying it's completely wrong, but that's why like I would probably lean for Grand. Also, like I don't know how bad she can be. Like it's not that easy for them to block her. Like if I can't attack with my Grand, that's beats for me. And plus, a lot of the 3-drops they don't even block Grand because like think about the 3-drops. Earthbender Ascension doesn't block it. Most of the time, whatever the other one
Right.
is,
Yeah.
and they don't even play a lot of 2-drops.
Waterloo
That's a problem.
War.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
problem with their deck. Like what 2-drops do they have? Badger Cub. Maybe I mean maybe they have Keen Eye Curator. They don't have a lot of or like maybe they have the fat chocobo, whatever you want to call it. And also like I mean like I see the Riddler and I'm like, okay, I can imagine like it's reasonable if you're like really scared they have a lot of interaction, for your disenchants or whatever. But and also like the like I feel like I would like the Quench you in the matchup just because they have a lot of 3/4 drops you can counter it on curve. I feel like also like when I was playing that deck, I would play the Ice Till, and I'm like, man, if they quench remember when I sent that message? I'm like, Ice Till's so
Yeah,
broken.
yeah,
But sometimes they quench it, it's just like, what the fuck, man. So I don't know. Like obviously it's kind of weird because you're like, oh, Quench isn't that good because they make a lot of mana, but they also do play expensive cards that are hard to interact with, and it's a lesson. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not I don't, and like I think like some of the removal is like a little, so I don't know. Like I mean,
This is really good reasoning. And I mean, the so Quench is I didn't even think about like just playing it on curve is pretty strong. But for Grand, the static ability, you're completely right. I found myself missing that ability. Like I need a Grand. Like I need to find mana parity with them, right? Like I get the discounts. They have like the 20 lands from all their random crap, and like not having that, like there's just like no time to level artist talent, and it's probably a bad idea to do it anyway because they got like 4 seam rips and all these disenchant effects and stuff. And like the Grand is kind of the way you get your mana parity in this matchup with like because they don't have as many ways to interact with the Grand as they do the artist talent. I mean, I know they still have seam rips and stuff, but yeah, like I found myself like needing a Grand off the top to get the discount in order to have a big turn, and like I mean that reasoning makes a lot of sense for me. um and like the also I think I'm really confused on the sideboarding like strategy because I think what Nathan's doing is he's playing like a really control like role, like he just wants to kill all their shit. Like he probably keeps the quench. I don't know. Like his side. He didn't give me like an actual sideboard map. Like he gave some guidance, and he mentioned a few key cards that he trims and stuff like that. But like I think what he's doing is a completely different game plan where he's basically trying to play like blue red control, and he's like not really in on his own game plan. He's just like control the board and then like deploy. He's playing 3 Riddlers. Like that's actually his win con in
yeah,
this
Riddle
matchup.
Movers, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a completely different approach, and that I'm trying to implement with a deck that's probably not configured for that approach or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I will say there's like just the key thing with Granblue why I was automatically taken aback is because like sometimes in the back of your head there's like matchups that you can say are about tempo and matchups that are about attrition, and I feel like this is like one of the
Yeah,
key matchups that I feel is more about tempo than attrition. Grand's a good tempo tool, and
yeah,
and like I don't know, it's just turn like it's a turn. It's like turn. The early turns are very critical in the matchup, and like it's just like you always want a 1 drop on turn one. So I mean, obviously, yeah, you can get advanced, you can get tricky with it, you can get advanced, but that's something I would be keeping in mind. Is like it's gonna be turn one. Turn one's a very critical turn in the matchup because as you saw in that game, like you can say, this always happens. You can say your deck's a little bit bigger, but it's like what's the strengths of their deck? Getting on board, whatever. And yeah, anyway,
yeah,
we can keep going. And yeah, I just like the quench because it just seems clean on curve. Like I said, a lot of the match is about curving out, playing on curve, and it's just the 2 drop. It's versatile. A lot of their cards are hard to interact with. Earthbender Ascension and the other one. Like yeah, Spell Piercer and all, but it's like those cards are kind of hard to interact with on curve. But you can quench it. It's nice, cheesy.
yeah.
So anyway, so yeah,
No, you're right, man. Yeah, I'm probably gonna hit you up a little bit more on Discord about like my sideboard map, and just to get. So yeah, I'm mulling to 5 here, by the way.
yeah.
Just to get some advice on because yeah, that's the other thing. I feel like I'm sideboarding differently in every game. Like I don't really have a plan. Like I need to spend some time like theorizing around it. Yeah. So this was yeah, this is my first hand. I didn't
Is
keep
this
this
4? Did you keep the? Is
second
this
hand.
5? This is
No, this is so this is actually
this
this
is
is a
5.
mold of 5 here, so
Yeah,
I can
yeah.
hander, yeah.
Okay.
So should I have gone to 4 here? Like I don't know. Like I was like I got 3 playable cards
No, I mean
and
this hand
going to
seems
4.
okay. Like you just hope, like the chance you hit a land's probably like 65. I don't know what the odds are. Like this is again like it's good. You can check out the hypergeometric calculator, see what the odds are. Maybe I'll look. It only takes a second. I'll probably already have it up anyway here because I use it like 20 times a day. Let me see hypergeometric. So you have let me see. So I'm just gonna do 53. I'm confused by what if it matters.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's 53 basically. So 53 cards, sample size. You draw 2 cards. Successes 21. So yeah, I mean it's 64. So you're 64% hit a land. So that's like pretty good chance to hit a land. To be honest, it's better
Yeah.
than a coin flip. and that's not even getting into like what if you draw Grand or a talent, like that's where you can get advanced. You can be like, okay, let's say I draw one of those 8 cards, then so it's actually, yeah, I mean, I think this hand's totally fine, so
Yeah, and then
um,
I think I bottomed the Iros. I was gonna do the torch, and I realized, wait, don't do the one drops, and then I went with abandoned attachments and Iros. I don't know if that's correct.
yeah, I mean, if it was me, I could like, did you consider bottoming Boomerang basics where you like it's good if I draw talent? Wait, did you decide out the talent, right? Oh man, this is gonna be a roasting.
Yeah, I yeah, the reason I bottomed, yeah, so I don't have a talents, um, which is probably something else I need to discuss with you offline. But the I kept the basics because it kept me 2/3 of the way to the accumulate wisdom, being on three, and I just figured like that's going to be a really important way to get out of this on a mold of five. And I think opponent kept to seven. Yeah, he did. So that was like another thing on my mind. I was like, let's keep the basics just so I can get closer to a wisdom. And then it's also,
Uh,
if I don't draw lands, like it's a good hedge, I guess.
well, we
At
can
least it
break
works.
it down for a second. I mean, so the first reason I was skeptical is like number one, like it's kind of intuitive. The more you mulligan, the worse bounce spells get, right? Because they're kind of tempo-y. They're more tempo-y than attrition cards, and it's like you can't really take advantage of the tempo when you have no resources. Like you kind of have to be forced to like, I mean, I'm not trying to give it too general, but you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah,
Like, if you don't,
yeah,
if your hand doesn't do anything, bounce spells get worse when you don't do anything because then they just replay the card and you didn't do anything. I mean, obviously you're talking about the lesson aspect, but like there's two things. Number one, that's where you can be like, why is accumulate wisdom good? It's good because it draws me extra cards. If I just bounce their spell, now it's a draw two. It's not a draw three. The other thing is that you're still kind of like, to me, you're still kind of far from getting to the lessons. Like I might want to keep the abandoned attachments because that will rely, like I feel like that could bridge me to the wisdom. And we have like, I could see going like bottom Iros and Boomerang maybe, or maybe you can even bottom Torch the Tower and Boomerang if you want to get spicy, and just be like, or like I'm trying to see, or yeah, or maybe yeah, you could even maybe bottom like Torch the Tower and yeah Iros, and then you could like plan to like discard the basics to the attack. Anyway, there's like a lot of weird things you can do with the deck, obviously, but or
yeah,
with this hand. But what I'm trying to say is like I might lean to get the abandon because I feel like you might need the abandon to get the third lesson for the accumulated wisdom. Because like you only have to like, especially if you keep the torch, like what are you gonna do? Like maybe you firebending lesson, and also keep in mind they might not have an elf or a chocobo. You might not get a target for your firebending lesson. So like you kept the torch and the firebending lesson. Now imagine if you're playing against Mr. Canister and he started out all his bad gerbil cubs and his whatever, and now you're just sitting there. So like I guess what I'm trying to say is like abandon could be good if they have like a slower draw that doesn't have those cards, which is it's reasonable. Like they might be siding in disenchants or seam rips. What are they siding out? Like maybe bad gerbil cubs, maybe not. But
yeah,
I guess what I'm saying is like yeah, I just thought I think you might want the abandon. Obviously, you might be thinking like this is again when it goes back to like, am I too far behind or too far ahead? And you might be thinking, oh, I'm really far behind. I don't have like you're probably like abandoned attachments is a luxury to cast. I don't have time to cast it. You know what I mean? I just need to hope that my accumulated wisdom comes online naturally. But if you think about it, like it's not taking that much
yeah,
time off to cast the like. I'm just saying as the attachments can help you get there. I guess is what I'm saying. And like yeah, what I was saying about the basics before, where I'm like
yeah,
I'm just so like if I'm multi five, I really don't want to bounce spell in my hand. I mean, obviously it's different if I have talent because then that can draw cards. But we don't. Obviously, this is just about a pure bounce spell in this instance. Yeah.
No, it's a really good point. It's like you're reading my mind, with the abandoned attachments, because I think that's what I was tripping out on.
Yeah, you
I'm
just
like,
it's
oh,
felt too far behind.
yeah, no, but
But think of yeah,
you're
like just
yeah,
yeah. But like don't like yeah, just be like it's not that bad. Like you multiply, if you're on the draw, so you're gonna draw a card for turn, so it's almost like you're even. And plus, as soon as you get the wisdom, and anyway, so and you can also think
yeah,
like the way the turns are gonna play out. Like if you draw a land, it's not like you want to cast the accumulate wisdom on 2 lands anyway. You want to cast something else anyway. If you think about what happens when you draw a land, like are you gonna want to cast the wisdom? It's like not really because you only have 2 lessons in the great game.
yeah,
And like also like what are you gonna bounce? Like not only is it not do they play an elf, but like let's say they don't play an elf, it's like what are you gonna bounce? Like their 3 drop? You know what I mean? Like their Earthbender Ascension. Anyway, yeah,
yeah.
keep going.
That'd be pretty bad.
Like it's just like yeah, like what are you gonna bounce early in the turns? I mean, I'm probably one of the biggest bounce spell haters in the planet, so I'm sad that there's a good one because I like my grindy value. But yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, like look at this. They're trolling you.
yeah.
They're like no
And then I
elf,
draw another
no elf for
no
you.
basics. Oh man.
Yeah. You got the basics. Yep. So let's see. They got a plane, so they're tricky. Oh, they left in the cub. So like, there's like you're like patting yourself on the back. You're like, let's fucking go.
I'm like, all right, I got it.
On the target. Yeah. Yeah. You're like, let's get the lesson going. Come on,
Yeah.
don't draw. Yeah. Oh no. Oh no. Because yeah, imagine if we had the bandit, we would have the three things online. But let's keep
I
going.
know, man. I know, like super punished here. We discard a boomerang to it, like
Yeah.
yeah. And so now I think I haven't. I probably like I'm gonna find myself in a situation where I have to cycle the wisdom.
Yeah. To look for like,
Yeah. So
yeah, I don't know. It's a tough scene.
something.
It's a tough
Yeah.
scene. So let's see the knight. Yeah, let's see what they do. They play Soul Guide. Yeah, so now it's I guess it's pretty easy for you to
Now the
cycle it.
wisdom doesn't matter. It's like
Yeah, at least I guess your game plan you're all in Riddler. But like just give me a Riddler and hope it works.
yeah,
They cast Desperate Origins. Yeah, you're letting it
yeah,
resolve.
yeah. Let it resolve. I was about to do the dumb thing of playing it first.
Honestly, I don't even know what happens if you bounce it. Do they get the spell in hand? I mean, I guess that's what happens. I don't know. I guess I'll find out.
Oh, the if they
What
bounce like the
Origins? Yeah, I guess it
origins.
just goes to hands. So yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And there it is. You're the Grand Grain you desperately were siding out. You bring her back.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
know.
now you can. Yeah, I guess you can cycle your own boomerang basics. That's the meme here.
I think I did do that.
Yeah,
I think I
yeah,
played Grand Basics.
bouncer.
The
Because yeah, there was almost like a high variance line where you could just hope to rip one of your two Riddlers.
yeah,
And
and I guess I'm maybe screwed up here because I'm like 90. Well, no, I think I wanted to keep the torch up. Yeah, so I decided like I'm just gonna. I don't have a reason to have the Grand out right now.
yeah, so this is
I
fine.
don't know. Yeah, it was bad. I'm not sure, but
Oh, it's just like the no, I think it's fine. Like I was getting too paranoid because I was playing some games to do today, and I was messing up the Spire Bluff because I was trying to not draw tap Spire Bluff. But there are downsides. Like keeping up the torch could be
yeah,
nice
because
maybe.
they're fabled on one. Like they specifically went for a planes, which I just thought like you know
Well, also there's like there might be worlds where like you're not that pressed on the mana. I mean, that sounds like a weird thing to say, but like if you draw Spire Bluff, it's not that big of a disaster. You might not have the mana. Yeah,
Oh,
it's kind of interesting. You
it
could pass with a null up here, but I guess it's reasonable because you're like, there's just gonna Esper Origins, so seems fine, I
yeah.
guess. Obviously, it'll
Yeah,
feel really
yeah,
bad if they play any other card, but like you're pretty far behind, so it seems fine to risk it for the biscuit. Okay, they play Badger Cub. They make
and
it.
I think they'll
Yeah, then they Esper Origins, and they're just clowning on you. Oh no, they Seam Rip. So they're living in
and then
fear. Look at that! Look
yeah,
at that! They could have just played Esper Origins from the graveyard, but they spent the whole time Seam Ripping.
the Grand was great. It saved me one turn without the origins.
Yeah, but you can't make anything out of any of this because they're just like trolling you.
Yeah, I mean the rest of this game is like I don't even know if it's yeah they royal treatment the cub like
You could bounce the Seam Rip, yeah, and try to annul it. Yeah,
yeah
the game plan's coming together as they say. So yeah,
yeah
they didn't sack the Soul Guide, so that's interesting. I could have seen maybe holding the land, but this is like I guess maybe playing it's fine in case you draw Riddler, sure. Uh, and you're like, I'm probably not going to loot anyway. They have this gigantic Badger Cub, kind of a weird, kind of a tough scene, as they say.
yeah
Okay, they attack, so it's like the hope, the the return of the hope,
yeah.
whatever that
So it's
movie's
like
called.
okay, do anything other than Esper Origins here, please.
Yeah, there you go. Oh no, but it's actually okay. Yeah, this
And then
makes sense. Now they have like
yeah,
600
this
mana,
was like
7 mana.
yeah okay yeah.
Well, you could rip a Riddler. I guess that's why people like Riddler because they have his fantasies that they're gonna win from their horrible spots with it.
I mean, I don't think I'm winning this game even with a Riddler, right? Like,
Well, it's your only hope. It's like the only way you would have any. I mean, if you draw Riddlers, maybe you make something happen. I don't know. Otherwise, I don't know what else could happen unless they forget that their soul guides in play and just let you ancestral.
yeah.
Uh, um, oh yeah, baby, there you go, artist talent.
And then I think I chump attack here
Yeah,
because
looking
I'm
for
like,
Riddler, sure.
yeah,
Yep.
and that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We can
Next
go
game.
to the next one.
Yeah. So you
Brought the
bring it.
Grand back in. Learned my lesson there.
Yeah. Yeah, Slagstorm's interesting. I mean, I don't know if Nathan said he likes it. I guess I'd have to like study their deck, but I don't
I don't
know.
think he brought it up. I don't know actually. I mean, he runs two in his list.
Yeah, he's
Um,
respecting the allies, something. What's it?
yeah, maybe like yeah, I'm not sure. And this was just straight up like, oh, did I just ship with 61 here?
That's a boss move.
Please,
Yeah.
please tell me. Oh no, I think I submitted and or I
No,
don't
it
know.
looked like 61. Maybe he just forgot that you had an extra card or something.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, man, what a noob move.
It'll make
I
your opponent think you're a genius.
that is so bad.
I will say, not
Uh,
to there are I think there are times that are like extremely rare where 61 could be good. I would say the easy example is like if you're playing against like a control deck where you're scared of decking, I've submitted 61 before against me.
really?
Well, when Phoenix used to often like it had issues decking against like control decks, and I mean in the end I went back down to 60, but like I think it wasn't crazy to consider going to 61 to increase your spell density because like literally you would actually draw your whole deck like against them, and getting decked was a real thing. So just having an extra spell was good, and like all your spells were kind of equal in a way because they were cantrips.
Yeah.
But that
I
was
mean, I
like the
guess like
only
yeah,
time.
drawing is crazy in these decks.
Yeah,
I can kind of see it.
I mean, it probably should almost never happen, and then I ended up going down to 60 anyway. But there was like a few months when, like, against control decks, I was going out to 61 with Phoenix, which is kind of a deep time, and against Niv. But that was like, yeah, that
Yeah.
was like a very weird situation. Anyway, yeah, we can keep going here.
So that was a mall.
Easy keep, I guess. Well, like look at this Riddler. You're like, that's the thing. You're getting all intellectual for these grindy games, but then you come to the street, like you come to the reality of the streets, and you got the Riddler here, and you're like, yeah, I'm ready for the grindy games. Yeah. Here's my Riddler against my, like, you know what I mean? I mean, I would say the key thing is just like you have to really like pick and choose your battles and be like, you have to be like, am I fine losing the like? I'm not saying that Riddler is good or bad, but sometimes it's fine to lose the grindy games. You know what I mean? You have to be like, am I really trying to fight over the attrition games or not? Because this is the downside. Now it's like, wow, what? Like I tried to next level my opponent, but what if they have a normal draw and I just look like a complete moron because I'm working Riddler that I'm never gonna
Yeah.
cast because they're going turn one Land War Elves. And anyway, but we can keep going here.
Yeah, I actually I considered shipping this hand, but in the end I was like I can't go to 5 on the play.
Just believe in Grand Grand. You have to win Grand Grand. It's okay.
Yeah.
And your Riddler's coming online. And you got like you got this boomerang basics. That's what I mean. That people, the streets have been skeptical of. Okay, so the attack was Grand Grand. You know, reasonable. Yeah, you discard maybe multiversal passage. I could see discard the passage. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, you see what I'm saying here?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
of Steam Rip.
Uh, yeah, no, you're right. That was
And
maybe a little tilted there. I'm not sure.
yeah, I mean, you might have been tilted. You got the Riddler. You're like, this card's supposed to be good. Why is it bad for me now? You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
felt terrible having to cycle the Riddler right there.
Yeah, you're
Felt
almost like in the
terrible.
back of your head, you're like, I want to hold it for my boomerang basics or whatever. You're like, oh god, don't
Yeah.
have to play Badger Cub, and I have all the that's happening. You're like, fuck, don't do it, no. Yeah. Oh, as for Origins, you're like, okay. So like now when I lose, their draw is worse. That's even worse now. Okay. So
They
yeah,
surveil
yeah, you see
Satan.
the land. Yeah, you're like, I need my Agna Kella so I can have the feeling of agency.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know the
honestly,
thing is,
I would probably, yeah, do you boomerang basics your own Brain Brain? Yeah, you do it. You're like, I need to get juiced. And oh no, the Slag Storm. Oh no.
yeah.
That's why it's almost like a law, like whatever sideboard decisions you make have to get punished in one way or another. The Slag
I'm like
Storm
literally
Grand.
drafting my own sideboard plan, dude. Like it's like if these were normal cards I was drawing,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's what I was saying. Like, yeah. So now it's
I
like,
mean,
it
like if
just,
Storm Chaser's talent, like you know what I think this would have been a very different game, but
yeah.
yeah,
Or I don't know, like if you had the monument, or whatever. Like, oh, do you have the
right,
view sideboard? Oh, no, this is a recording. You can't do a view sideboard. Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
So
But I
we can
mean,
keep it.
I can come back to this
Yeah.
point.
Anyway, we can. Yeah, look at the monuments in the sideboard, the quenches. Like, look at that, the quenches. You're like, tasty quench. Anyway, we can keep going. The broadside barrages, not saying that card's good, but that's a card I would consider against them. Anyway, so we can keep going. I just like that. It's like because they have like you can kill Keen-Eyed Curator, past whatever. It's just that like the
Yeah,
closer techniques get sketchier. Anyway, so like we keep going. Attack was the Grand. It's a rough scene, but you're like I have the Riddler. That's my last chance, my only hope. Oh, you draw the lesson for the clutch save of the Grand.
So yeah, I guess I'll save the Grand here.
Yeah, yeah. So you do that. Yeah, and now you got the Flag Storm here. Like it's 2012, and you're playing Valakut. I guess I don't know if you played Standard in 2011 to know about that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's about Valakut specifically.
No, it was just in the red green Primeval Titan deck they played Slagstorm. It didn't even have Valakut, it was pre Valakut. They used to get do you know what they got off
Really?
Primeval Titan?
Yeah, like I like this is
Inkmoth
not
and
like
Kessig Wolfrun.
oh shit.
Well, that was in I think it was the deck that like I think Kibler won the Pro Tour playing red green whatever, and who was he against? Paulo. It's like those Stalin pictures. He was against Paulo in the finals, I think. Uh, with playing red green landfall with Slagstorm. Like the last time I've seen somebody cast Slagstorm in constructed was that probably that PT finals 2011. Okay, so Esper Origins is coming back. Uh, I don't know. I guess my insults I sound like Gordon Ramsay, like just flinging insults left and right, but it's more nostalgic of like man, it's been a while since old Slaggy. Oh, this is I guess you could almost consider attacking to like Slagstorm finish off if they block, but maybe that's too
Oh, I
bad.
didn't see that line. Yeah.
I mean, it has its own issues, but that saga. I guess I should stop saying a joke every 5 seconds. But the funny thing about that saga is it takes me back to playing Final Fantasy Limited, and it's like, man, just take me back rather than this constructed. That was a nice saga. But anyway, so yeah, you do that, and then
So
you
good.
and then they make 2 mana. And you're like, man, that saga's really good. Let's see what happens. I mean, you have this Riddler. It's your last hope. Okay, now you're like, okay, we're
I'm
seeing what
like, maybe the
the
Slag Storm's gonna do something.
yeah. Okay, the
They
Earth
play Earth
Ascension,
Ascension.
which
Not
makes mana
great.
with the Cub. Nice. Yeah. Also, when you
Yeah.
slide from them, they're gonna get landfall back on everything. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. That's why. And then this is like pretty over here because it like so they have the wagon and they have the Esper,
Yeah, the
whatever
overrun.
the yeah. So they're about to crew it. Oh, like I figured like I have to hope that they don't crew it in response to Chapter 3 or something dumb, right? Like,
Oh, well, that was a good
um,
thing. Yeah, the monument, I guess. Let's see.
yeah, but it's
Not
kind of
really.
weird because yeah, like I don't have 3 lessons in the yard. So I'm not gonna have any other plays. I can draw a card with the Grand before I, you know.
Yeah, send her to the nursery home or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm basically just dead to like might form.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least your decisions are easy here because you have no options basically. Like, just kind of need to attack
Yeah.
and play Storm. Nothing really to think about too much here. Yeah.
Yep.
Then you draw. Oh, there's a boomerang basically, I guess. So yeah, they block, and that's like, yeah, I
Oh,
mean, like,
this is interesting
yeah,
because I actually I think I tanked on this for a minute. Like, well, I guess I'm dead no matter what if they have might form, right?
yeah, you just force the slag storm because if you just have because like the problem is if they have might form, I mean they have overrun, right? So if you don't slag storm,
Right,
you
right.
know,
Yeah, I came to that same conclusion. I just forgot I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, yeah. So as you were saying, that it's actually not that bad here because their saga is going to go away. It dies, and they only have one brood wagon that's going to be big. So anyway, so yeah, like you can take a hit from the brood wagon.
Yeah, as long as they don't have might form, I could take a hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they have
Well,
the might form, it's completely over. Because
yeah. I mean, but you thought you're 100. It's a bad spot, so you're just happy to be in there. So it's like you're happy to be here. So
yeah.
like I'd be like, oh shit, like we might have a chance here. Like let's say they have 2 lands in hand, we could actually win this game. Oh,
yeah.
you know. Uh, anyways, then yeah, and if they have the might form, like they fetch, that's like oh shit, maybe they don't have it. They're fetching.
Yeah, that confused me actually, because um, I was like, "What the hell?"
Well, you're dead to might form anyway because it just fetches a land anyway, right? I mean, I guess I
Oh,
don't see how much
yeah,
power it has.
right.
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know if
because
that's yeah. If they
yeah,
yeah they could
like they do this weird sequencing here where like they play a land first and then might form. I mean, I'm dead no matter what. I guess they probably just did the
they're
math,
trolling you.
but I was just like,
Yeah,
yeah, I was like, oh, thank God, like I could take this.
yeah, dude. Yeah, this is in the
Uh,
moto chat. They would say nice slow roll.
Yeah.
Like, if I was streaming, I don't, there was an old meme or an old streamer. He would always say "nice slow roll" in like a really slow Eastern European accent. Slow
Wait, is it
rollers.
a old streamer?
Yeah, you. I mean, you wouldn't probably know him. Yeah, it was an older streamer.
I was just thinking of, man, someone recently called out like some slow rolling in a spotlight coverage or some shit. I forgot who it was. I think it was like Arne or something.
Okay.
uh,
Yeah. So there's a slow rolling. Yeah. So I mean that was I mean but you could see there you could see the harsh lessons. I mean they say lessons learned in blood are not soon forgotten. Like you saw, you had the Riddlers and Slime. I mean I'm not saying they're bad, but it's like the thing is you have to be very sure of like I won it for this reason, because then the moments they're bad, you're like okay they were bad, but I still wanted them for the reason. You know, you have to kind of stand by them. You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
you saw the lows of them, so you need to also have the highs of them too, you know. And you saw like yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
I,
The same with Boomerang, because I was kind of like I don't know if you remember last week. I was saying I don't know if I want Boomerang basically against the green deck. Like what am I gonna bounce? Then you watch the games happening, and it's like yeah, like what am I gonna bounce? You know, like like there's three drops.
yeah, it was absolutely terrible, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
this entire list, like, yeah, and with the extra bounce spells, I don't know what I was thinking.
I mean, I guess
Trying to get
I will say there's a few things. I mean, it goes back to the cookie jar example where it's like it's that's why I said it's advanced. As soon as you start doing it like tricky stuff, like it's always a good plan to put your hand in the cookie jar, kind of. But as soon as you start trying to like make contraptions, you know what I mean, to like as soon as you start reacting to what your opponent's doing, you start getting into like weird, you know, situations. So it's just good to be aware of that. Like it's almost like doing the simple thing is almost like a good thing, because then at the worst case you're doing a good simple thing. I guess I didn't have a good point there, but anyway, I'm just saying like
no,
people that loot their deck too. Because like yeah, I mean I was giving the example. There's all these players who seem so unconcerned with what their opponent's doing, but those are actually like some of the best players on the PT. Who you know what I mean? People will say like, oh, they're greedy, they're not respecting whatever, but they're literally just thinking, what's the how do I do the thing I want to do the fastest, and then they just execute on that. Where like a lot of people are like dancing around,
yeah.
like doing all this ballet or whatever. But anyway, yeah, we can,
That's like so that's one thing I want to do is like I want to build like my own sideboard map, and recognizing like sideboards change or what stuff circumstantially, but like I just want to like write down some notes on what the actual game plan is so I can like work on remembering it, because it feels like I've just been kind of just following random like people's game plans, or like I don't have a real plan. And like I need to start forming one of my own for this deck because it's just like I don't think it's sustainable the way that I've been sideboarding.
yeah. I mean, I would say one
Uh,
thing is if you want to understand the matchup, like probably the easiest way is you just play from the other side. Because when you play from your side, you're biased, you're paranoid. You know what I mean? You're whatever. And
yeah,
you play from the other side, and then you see it. Because that's why I was playing that green deck, and I was getting pissed the hell off by Grand Grand. And I'm not saying that means Grand Grand is good, but it was giving me an idea. And also like no, like when I was playing that deck, I'm like man, it all is really annoying. And like that's not something you necessarily realize when you're playing from the blue red side. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of see what annoys
right.
you, from the other side. Um,
Yeah. I should give it another go. I ran it on the ladder like a little bit, and I don't know. It felt really strong, but it's the ladder.
yeah, I mean it seems
But yeah,
strong to
maybe
me. I
I
mean
have
it's
to
been
promote the league or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems strong to me. I mean, it's been doing good online. Like, I think it's. I mean, I don't know if it's better than Lessons, but it seems like respectable, like respectable deck, and it's been doing well. That's why I popped two. I mean, I popped two owls in my sideboard because I'm like, this deck's winning a lot. Like, why not? Let the owls fly.
Yeah,
So
it's all over the place. Like I can't avoid the deck at this point. Just
yeah, but like,
came out
so
of
put some owls in the sideboard. You know what I mean? People have their sideboard guides, but they won't put the owls in the sideboard. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I was running two owls in the beginning, but
yeah,
I just didn't know what I was doing. Like I mean, I can see
yeah.
it now.
Well, it's just like as a hate card. I mean, I was saying that to like some of my friends the other day. I'm like, this. I was like telling them like, this is why I don't like think that the meta is that efficient. It's like literally on Moto, it's like 30% of the meta is this green deck, and literally I haven't seen a single owl in a sideboard. It's like the most obvious hate card you could play, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you just got to put it in there, and then people are gonna start, copying what you're doing or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone top eights with it a challenge, and they're just
Yeah.
like,
But it's like it's so obvious, right? Like it's literally 40% of the meta. It's such an obscene hate card. Okay, anyway, this is Just Guy Black. Okay, so yeah, you got
um,
to yeah,
yeah. So this is just kind of a
yeah.
nut draw, I guess, as they say. I don't know. I'm just like running out the storm chasers here.
Yeah, I mean, this is
I
kind of
just,
interesting here. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is one of the decision points. Like I could have popped the wisdom, probably gets countered, but then again they didn't counter the first Storm Chasers talent, but and I'm still 2 turns out from Wrath. I think some of them play split up, but I'm diversifying the otters if I'm playing like an untapped one, tapped ones, whatever. So I figured like I'll just run them both out, and swing for 6 or whatever.
Yeah, but I would say there's a couple things. Like number one, that I'm thinking like, let me see. I mean, do they play Pinnacle Star Cage? I have to check. Does that hit
They play
extended?
split up. I don't think they play Star Cage, but the one that where it's like destroy all tapped or
Yeah,
untapped
I know
creatures.
that's split up. Well, I was just wondering about Star Cage because there's like one because part of the problem is like you really want to activate. So like if they had Star Cage, that would be a thing, but I guess maybe not. I mean, I was thinking, well, one problem is like you can play all the talents and they can't rast you until, as you were saying, 2 more turns, right? But think about how the turns are going to play out before they rast you. Are you really going to be able to deal like like is their wrath going to like? Because think about like okay, let's say you play both talents this turn. What's your plan next turn? I guess you're going to go like level talent, pick up boomerang basics maybe, or
Yeah, I figured I'm probably going to be leveling talent. I ended up not doing that, which I could hear you screaming at me when I didn't do it, but like I don't remember what I drew, but I just like went for
you want to
max
prowess?
damage,
Yeah.
um, something like that. Yeah, like I drew like a 2 drop or some shit, and I was like, oh, I'll just wisdom and play the 2 drop. I don't remember, but yeah, like I guess like I could see a case for. I mean, what do you think? Like just play nothing, you know what I mean, or play one talent and like hold one for post wrath. The other consideration is like they probably have Helix. They on 4. Another thing they can have is like that life gain bullshit. I forget what it's called. That like deals 3 or something, and like or exiles a creature and gains life or some shit like that.
I don't even know what that is.
Um,
Exiles a creature and gains life.
I don't know. This deck has all sorts of weird shit. Like, not a single card is memorable. Like, this deck fucking sucks. It's terrible. I don't know why people play it, but it's like a bunch of 4 drops that like it's. I don't know. It doesn't even play like a control deck. It feels more like a mid-range sort of like deck with
I
no
mean,
creatures or something.
I'm trying to. I was just imagining like the Jeskai control decks with like some of them were played for some reason mystical teachings or something of the sort. Let's see. I
Yeah, I don't think they're playing with that anymore. They're just like, getting to 7 and playing like Jeskai
yeah.
Revelations.
So it is that.
Like,
Okay, I'm looking. Yeah, I'm pulling up their list. Was this a modern? No, they're playing Jeskai in modern. Okay, they're. Let me see 1 second. Okay, they don't have a standard. Zori's. Yeah, I was trying to
yeah,
pull up their list.
it's I think it's basically just a stock list. Well, this one has black mana, so it's like Jeskai Black or whatever. But everything I saw was like stock shit.
Well, it
Um,
sounded you said you were unsure to play against Jeskai. I mean, this is a key.
yeah,
I think yeah, you might have messaged me like a week ago or something. Like,
yeah,
how do I?
yeah. This is exactly what I wanted
Well,
to
I'm very
to
confused
talk
by the life gain spell because I think like I'm the kind of guy who knows almost every spell in standard. I'm like very confused what the exile a creature gain life is. I mean, were you thinking of like
about.
bit like
Damn, I'm trying to because they actually do play it.
ex, exile creature gain life?
It's I'm pretty sure it's a Jeskai spell. It might not exile. It does something. It kills
I mean, are you
things
talking
and
about? I mean, not Jeskai Revelation, right?
no. It's way cheaper than that.
Let me see because there's a good tool MT Top 8 that I can compare all the Jeskai control decks in one button.
Oh
So
shit.
let me, yeah, I don't know. Like, let me see. So they play Aang's Iceberg, no Cursed Recording. That's a good meme. Let's see what else. Light Molten Exile, Scorching. I don't see because like I know all the yeah. I'm not like what how much mana does this card cost?
Let me see if I can actually
Like is
fast forward to it.
okay. We can talk about this turn first for a second because I mean I think
Yeah.
deciding. I mean this is kind of like a big like this is kind of a big macro question about playing against control in this kind of a turn here because it's like okay like and this is always what I mean. Like when you're doing something good, you have to ask like, what is the thing that I'm doing that's good? So like, okay, like this turn, right? Yeah, I could very easily see holding the force talent, but it gets kind of complicated because there's kind of 2 things going on here. Like on the one hand, on the one hand, you're like, well, I have, like, on the one hand, you might be thinking, I have a lot of card advantage, so I don't care if they wrath me, because I just have a lot of card advantage, and you know what I mean? That's good. But on the other hand, if you let them wrath 4 of your otters with 1 wrath, you're kind of losing some of the card advantage you're gaining. So, like, for example, what I mean is, next turn, if you were to level your talent next turn, like, let me see how to put this. If you are to level your talent next turn, then what are you doing? You're getting card advantage with the Boomerang basics, but it's slow card advantage. You're paying 4 mana for that, right? But then if they just
Yeah.
Wrath of God, then they're just, you know what I mean? They're negating your card advantage because you're paying 5 mana to get that card advantage and you're leveling your talents, but then they're just wiping out your otters anyway. I mean, maybe that's kind of abstract, but you can kind of see what I'm saying. I guess the other thing I could say is, like, if you are going to play the third talent this turn, it's like, will they need a Wrath anyway, right? And, like, if they don't Wrath, is that good for me? Because you can go, like, you can play third odd, you can play the talent, go to attack, you know, maybe you deal 4 damage, and you can ask the question, like, if you're like, there are 2 outcomes. Either they use spot removal on my tokens, or they have to wrath.
Yep.
And even if they use spot removal on their tokens, then that maybe that's good for you in some ways, because you're gonna have 3 tokens this turn, so you already are kind of maybe pressuring a wrath. And then, like, if they don't kill your tokens, you might be happy because you have enough pressure. And if they do kill your tokens, now they're kind of committed to keep killing your tokens. Obviously, it's kind of convoluted because there might be world, like, you're just like, it feels bad to not play the otters to pressure the opponent. But I guess the kind of the meta way I'm putting it is, like, you might be doing enough to pressure a wrath, and you're still developing. Because, like, if you go play a talent now, end of their turn, accumulated wisdom, which I might consider, like, maybe if they don't, like, the thing is they're not no moralizing your talent, so maybe you're like, oh, they don't have it, but there is a chance that they have, like a wrath, and maybe they're trying to play to that, or they're holding the no moralize. Maybe it's not happening. I'm trying to, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, if, like, let's say you go this turn talent plus accumulated wisdom, either main phase or on their end step. That way you're using all your mana to develop. You have 3 guys. Next turn you can go, like, level the talent, and then turn 5, and you're kind of forcing, a wrath. And if they don't wrath, maybe it's good for you. Whereas if you play all these talents, I can see the downside. It's like, it's not like it's not like your deck's game plan is otter beatdown. Like, how we're kind of saying these otters aren't that great in the deck. Like, it's not like you get them to 11 life and it's like, yeah, like, now we're gonna now we're gonna get them. Like, it's not like they're like, the otters aren't gonna hit that hard. And yeah, I mean, that's the other problem is, like, yeah, you look at the board here, and, like, you're not that good at triggering prowess next turn because you play a bunch of otters, but you kind of want to level the talent anyway, and then you're not gonna get the prowess. Or you can play the wisdom, but then it's even, like, I guess what I'm saying is they're gonna be able to wrath before you deal that much damage, and then they're gonna be able to recuperate. Because think about how they recuperate from the wrath, and, like, that's the problem. Like, you play all your others and then they wrath it, but it's not like it mattered that they took the damage. Like, you know what I mean? It's like almost like if they paid life to draw cards. Kind of, if they have to wrath anyway, and you're like, okay, I want to deal more damage. I mean, obviously there are times it's good to extend the rest. But that's kind of what I'm saying is, like, yeah, you're getting card advantage, but you're negating your own card advantage, and maybe you're forcing the wrath. And obviously, like, the feel bad, you're like, oh, like, what if they only have lightning helixes and I don't, play enough pressure? But you're still developing because you're still casting wisdom, you're still, leveling your talent, whatever. But anyway, I mean, I think it's a close line, but that's why I might be like, yeah, maybe I don't want to play more otters because I'm already 3 otters isn't enough, and I don't know if the damage will matter. And that way, when they do wrath, I'll have a bigger way to build up again. Because then they go, turn 4 wrath, and then I'm able to go, like, triple talent again. Like, because I boomerang basics it, or, like, double talent because I boomerang basics it, or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. So I played this completely incorrectly, and so the accumulate wisdom. Let's go. So let's say I play 1 talent, right, just to get some prowess damage, and it resolves. What does that tell me at that point? Like, should I be main phasing the accumulate wisdom, or is it better to play end of turn and just, like, stay focused on the longer game? Because that seems like an interesting decision point too. I know we're completely in, like, the theoretical at this point because I did different stuff, but like, I can kind of see main phasing it, right?
I mean, instinctively, like, the one thing I would say is that you have to ask a question. Like, you can't just assume they would counter your talent because they could. Because if they have Wrath of God, they might just let it resolve. Or, like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, you might be thinking, oh, like, maybe they don't know that the Wrath of God is safe because of because I could have punch or something of the sort. But the problem is, number one, if your opponent, this is also, like, it's good. Like, the better your opponent is, the more, like, meta awareness they might have. They might be aware that, like, you're not that good of a Storm Chaser's talent deck in a way, and they might be like, Yeah, like what's he? It's not like he can trigger prowess that much on his main phase anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
like I guess what I'm saying is like you have to be like, can you really believe they don't have no more lives because this resolves? And to me, I don't know if I can 100% believe it. I would be like,
No, that's true. You're right. Yeah.
and then then the
It
other,
could very well be that they're trying to hit the artist talent or something like that,
or they have a
right?
split up, yeah, or like they could, and also they're playing Jeskai control, right? Like what do they have a bunch of in game one? Spot removal. You know what I mean? So they kind of
Yeah,
want
get
to,
lost and stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So anyway, like yeah, and then yeah, it's just a thing of the pros and cons. It's like do I really need the 2 extra damage from the wisdom? If I do it on if I do it on their turn, then they can't no moralize it. I mean I don't know. If it was me, I would instinctively like my intuition would be to wait, but I don't hate main phase.
Yeah.
I don't think it's horrible. It's just that like I think there's a chance they could also have like spell snare or spell. I guess spell snare is in the next format. I've been playing with the new cards already. Anyway, yeah, we can keep going. I like that's the only card that spoils spell snare. It's like one of the most troll cards. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I end up running it out. I think they do have a get lost here if I remember correctly, which is like kind of sucks too because if you think about it, like I could have just like double mapped. That would have been really sick this turn.
Yeah. But yeah, so you attack. Yeah, just you see what happens. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Draw another land.
but I guess like the
Which
key
is
question is when you're playing against a Wrath, it's like, do I have like because like generally like you do want to kind of you do want to pressure them. Like the thing about control is if you don't pressure control, then you might just lose to the threats anyway. Like you don't want to be in a spot where you just lose to the threats anyway. But you also don't want to just like play a bunch of guys. I mean, I don't know the most eloquent way to say it, but anyway, they can keep going
yeah.
forward. But like, yeah, you can see here, like you're like, yeah, the problem is you're like, I have a free turn to attack, but the problem is like, what are you going to do in the free turn to attack? Like hit for 8 damage, and then they're at 11 and wrath you, and 4 for 1 you, and then you're just sad. So anyway, but we can keep
Yeah.
going. And also, yeah, you probably
I
want to, yeah.
so like yeah here I mean yeah I put myself in a weird spot and they're kind of telegraphing a wrath here right like they're not doing anything like they've not countered any of the Storm Chasers talent. They have some spot removal. I don't know. Maybe they have another piece of spot removal here. So, I mean, now that we're talking through it, like it looks like leveling the talent is the best thing to do here, right? Like grab a boomerang basics, get myself back in the game post wrath, and I
Yeah,
swap
like,
wisdom for shit.
yeah, I like leveling here because obviously, like, it just guarantees that you got to use all the mana, just setting up your future turn. Because the problem is you accumulate wisdom now, but what are you gonna do? Like hope to hit an artist? Like I don't mind the talent because like this thing is like it's not efficient to level the talent. Like there's obviously times it's bad to level talent, but the problem is like look at our hand. Our hand is awful, right? So
Yeah.
it's like efficient in that it sets up our future turns. It's a little investment for later. And yeah, I'm not that worried about dealing damage with the otters. And like if they don't have
Yeah.
Wrath, that's good for us anyway. Like we're gonna hit, yeah. Like it's not that you have to be like, oh, do they have Wrath or don't have Wrath? It's more like if they don't have Wrath, it's good for us. And I don't know. Like if they don't have Wrath, they're probably gonna lose. So we're kind of forcing them to have it anyway. And it's not like the little extra damage is gonna matter that much. But anyway, yeah, we can. And also the nice thing is if you level the talent now, you can actually go level the talent now, and then next turn you could level another talent and then boomerang basics one, and like you don't even need to replay the basics. You're just like really loading up.
Right. Damn. Yeah, that's true.
Just
Shit.
fucking
I didn't even think
loading
that
up,
far ahead.
loading up the truck. The truck.
Yeah, but I did the thing where I don't use my mana. I played wisdom. I cracked the map token, played wisdom. Like
Oh no! Don't crack the map first. Did you do that? Yeah, we'll keep going.
yeah, that's what I did, man. There's
Yeah.
abandoned attachment, which I think I put in the graveyard.
Oh no!
Um,
Oh no! Well, when do you want to drop attachments here almost? Oh, you just wanted
I
to get
guess
the lesson
so.
count up. Well, because like look at your
Um,
hand. It's a bunch of lands that are useless. It's
yeah,
almost
yeah, but I'm gonna use the accumulate wisdom here anyway. So
yeah. But when do you
my
want to like?
other
Is there something you're digging for? Like, isn't it kind of a good draw here though? Because like, isn't it like a 2 mana draw? I guess I shouldn't say too much, but like, uh, I mean, what like
yeah,
what are you
you're
looking for
right.
that's better?
Like
Like another
I
win?
I, I guess I was maybe looking for a one drop. I was on the prowess plan. I was just like more prowess damage, and like that's not a one drop or
Yeah.
something. It
Well,
was
that's
something stupid like that.
well, that's another problem with mapping first. Like if you play accumulated wisdom, you could just accumulate wisdom and then play abandoned attachments, and then you just get all the prowess triggers.
Yeah, I remember thinking like the sequencing here was really bad.
Yeah,
I should have played Wisdom first, crack
yeah.
the map after I have more info.
But yeah, like it's also it looks like it might be like the thing is it's always good to like ask like why are cards good or bad. Like this is like the perfect situation for abandon because you just have like so much nonsense in your hand that it's basically just a 2 mana draw two, uh, pretty much.
Yeah,
It's
man.
almost like an accumulated wisdom, just because you're in the context that your hand is so bad that you have all these cards you want to get rid of anyway. But anyway, yeah. So
Yeah, all bad, man.
let's see.
I'm terrible. So yeah, I discard it. I play Wisdom,
Yeah, you wisdom that, yeah, and then
punished, because it's artist talent. Like I could have gone for Wisdom talent. Yeah, just super fun. So now I'm kind of, I guess, priced into just playing the Spire Bluff. They don't do anything to like. They have no interaction here, and then they play Consult, so they're digging.
yep.
No
Oh, one second. I'm
wrath.
trying to see if the stream crashed for me. Okay, that's why. Uh, yeah, I can't see right now. Okay, now I can see. Okay, good, good. Yeah, so you play the Spirals. Okay. Yeah, and you find the artist talent. Sure. Okay, they're at 7, and they don't have a wrath. That's nice for you. Yeah, here it's
Yeah,
kind
so
of interesting because you could almost even consider again just you could almost consider leveling one of the blue talents. Maybe I don't know if it's the best play though, but you go
yeah,
for lethal. I mean, this makes sense,
because
I
like
guess. Yeah.
in last turn, they had no wrath. Like or maybe they did have interaction, but they're like, I really got to get off this consult the star charts.
Yeah.
Um, I just figured like, I could, and I was thinking about the life gain thing here.
But you could combustion technique your own thing if they have Helix.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah,
Oh, this.
inevitable defeat.
Okay, this. Okay.
Yeah, my bad. It's Mardu. Like I forget.
I was gonna say like that was one of the only spells I could think of, but I didn't even want to say it because I didn't because of But okay, they do have that. Okay. So yeah, I don't know if it actually stops the life gain if you would kill your own creature. I'm not sure how it
I
works.
think it would fizzle it, right? Because exile
Yeah.
target non-land permanent its controller, or at least, I mean, that's the way it played.
Yeah.
I assumed it would work that way.
Yeah, so you can put them to 1, and then it's like you get to draw a card because you're rummaging away island. Sure. Then you go to 1 life. Let's see, and then it's their turn, I guess. And yeah, they're playing some yeah. Yeah, that card was
Yeah,
good
they
in
just.
unlimited. Okay, so let's see the sideboard. You're siding out all the removal, sure. The bounce spells, yeah. I mean, it's probably pretty straightforward. Siding like
Yeah,
just
there's
the last cards are the most interesting, I guess. Okay. I guess Flash Freeze
it's
Time Shiko, that's a good meme. Yeah, sorry.
yeah, like I gotta play like bad cards because
You don't have
I don't have
anything?
enough to play.
Yeah.
Like I guess I think I decided I'll just take a broadside. At least it has a loot effect. Really weird.
Yeah, it seems I can kill Elspeth or he has too much loyalty. That's sad. Okay, anyway, yeah, so we can see like yeah, it could even be like maybe one soul guide just to cycle it, but maybe broadside if they have a Beza or something, you can
Yeah,
kill it.
that's
Or a new
interesting. Yeah.
or a new Nagi. Some of these guys have Unagis, it looks like. Actually, it could be a combustion technique because they play Meringue River Region sometimes. I don't know. And Shiko.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah, killed it.
Yeah.
And the Unagi of Kyoshi Islands, the ultimate hate card of this deck. Okay, it looks like you multi-5. I don't know. I was looking at the list. I don't know if I missed anything in that.
Yeah, so mold to 5. Opponent also molds to 5. And I bottom.
Yeah, I don't know if any
So
of the balls were interesting or they were just bad hands or
yeah, it was so
one
this was
lander.
hand one, and then I don't know. I mean, I'm on the draw, but this felt
Yeah, it seems
kind of
reasonable to mulligan. I mean, yeah, like you're like 64% to hit a land, but if you miss on a land, it's probably going to be hard to win. So, I mean, I don't think it's
yeah.
crazy to keep that hand, but I think it's pretty reasonable to mull it. It's like
And
advanced
then
math, yeah. So, yeah,
this
pretty
hand was
bad.
like capable.
Yeah, so you go to 5, and then
Um,
you're just like, what do I bottom? And you're like, yeah, you went land monuments, so it seems reasonable.
yeah, I think I bottomed the Agnikella, the tap land and the monument.
Yeah, it seems reasonable. You know, keep the spells you can cast, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But luckily, my opponent was on a mold of 5 and also had a pretty terrible draw. I don't even know if this game was
Okay, let's see.
anything.
Well, they have Summoning Falls Godless Shrine. Okay. Nice.
Yep. Play my otter.
Yep. Okay, they play that. Yeah, here it's interesting because you have the option to play artist talent or basics your own talent.
Yeah,
So,
I went for the pressure. I don't know if that's correct. I guess that you know, like I figured I'll have time to play the artist talent later anyway, and they could have a null up. I was playing around that mostly. Like I don't care if the talent gets annulled.
yeah, playing
Um,
around with null makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably buy a thing about Spell Pierce because I was playing like a million Spell Pierce in my list, but like nobody else plays it, so seems fine. I mean, yeah, I was just
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
certainly a possibility too.
yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about like with artist talent, just like yeah, if you are like if you boomerang basics and they have spell pierce, it could be pretty awkward, but it seems like fine to do this. And also, I was thinking about like if you talent, then next turn you can get more loots because your hand's kind of bad, but also you're kind of low on cards, so the rummages have less value anyway. I mean, it seems fine to
Good
basics, and
point.
like also if
Yeah,
you wait a turn, they might have like a 3 mana counter spell. I mean, the fact they played a two. I mean, the fact they played a tap line is kind of interesting because you're like, okay, they probably don't have like no more lies, they probably don't have get lost, they probably don't have a lot of consults.
yeah.
So,
A lot of their mana interactions probably don't
yeah,
exist, or
and you're like, yeah,
yeah,
maybe you're like they probably have a null because they didn't, whatever they didn't they passed. They're more likely to have a null because they don't have a 2 drop, I guess. So yeah, so you do this. So like, okay, resolves. Oh, Ral's a nice draw. And name blue. Yeah, passed it. I guess pretty straightforward. They don't annul it, so they're just sitting there. Yep.
yeah. So then I'm thinking like, what's in their hand?
Probably like 4 drops and stuff, I guess. Yeah, so you play artist talent for
Yeah,
prowess. And then you can play a tap land, I guess, for the value attack. Yeah, pretty straightforward, I guess. Yeah, then I guess the next one's kind of interesting because you have the choice to like level your blue talent or slam Ral. Okay, so they play consult, so maybe they drew it. Maybe they were holding it. Who knows? Let's see.
yeah.
It was no stock up here, that's for sure. Helix, okay. Well, if they okay, that does tap for blue. Yeah, I mean this is kind of interesting. I guess here you can like have the choice to level
I
talent or play Ral. Okay, you play it because you think they don't have a counter spell because they didn't play one on
yeah.
turn two. Like they
So
played a
yeah,
tap one
like
on turn two.
so I guess like the options here, it's level Storm Chasers, level Artists, or play Rao, right? But yeah, because they were playing like their lands weird, I was like, they don't have a fucking counter spell, so I'm just gonna run out the Rao. But they did just play like a console. Like I don't know, man. I mean, what was this the wrong play? You think?
I don't
I
know if
mean,
it's the wrong
for,
play, but I would say like a general something that happens against control. I don't know if I told you told you about this or it was somebody else, but I was saying that like you kind of it's kind of nice to have a punish for them tapping out when it's like in the mid game because like it's pretty conceivable that like what's the worst case situation that happens if you cast Ral? You cast Ral, they counter it or whatever, they get lost it, they untap and they play Elspeth, and then it's like now you're in a situation where you don't have a good play anymore, but maybe Elspeth
yeah,
is just hard to beat anyway. Like maybe a good reason to actually play Rel is that like you're like maybe they have Elspeth because they're like playing super slow, so I should get my Rel down to pressure their Elspeth. But I guess I would say like it's just kind of like it's not maybe applying here, but something to keep in mind is it's like nice to have a threatened hand to play. Like it's kind of like another form of like you like being defensive aggro where you're like if I keep a good play in my hand then I make it so my opponent can't tap out because if they tap out I get to play my good play, you see what I mean? And like maybe that's like a
yeah,
reason to be like
yeah,
okay I should level talent, but maybe you're like oh if they have Elspeth it's like too my Ral's too late anyway so I should just play out my Ral. And also yeah there was the weird context clue of like they didn't play counters, they had a couple draw steps but they're less likely to have it, probably was in an opening hand. But I don't know. I think it's close. Like I would the main like the card I would be thinking about here that's really on my mind is Elspeth because like that's everything that goes wrong this turn is all like related to Elspeth kind of right because like you have a lot of card advantage. The only way they can come back in is they play a planeswalker and get on the board quickly or an Unagi or something of the sort. So yeah,
yeah. So yeah, and that's pretty much it. The other match I have is like not interesting at all. It was like a non-game, probably not worth
okay,
reviewing. But like on the topic of planeswalkers, though, like I don't know if any planeswalkers have been spoiled yet for Lorwyn. This deck, like Lessons, like feels really soft. I mean, I don't know. Maybe your list isn't soft because you're running like a playset of spell pierces, but like this deck just feels like it auto dies when a planeswalker lands. Like, am I approaching it wrong or something? Like,
well which planeswalkers are
like
you
these
talking about, like Kaido or what?
Like I mean Kaido. Honestly, I'm not as worried with Kaido. Like you can basics hit, and it's kind of awkward for them, and you can kind of get them to play your game rather. But like I mean, those fringe cases where like an Elspeth does land, or like a Vivian, with the green white list, like there's just like no way to deal with it. I mean, I guess Kaido is kind of to an extent difficult to deal with, but um, I mean, are we just all in on like boomerang basics and shit like that for these
Well,
planeswalkers,
again, I
or
think I think the question to ask is like when they have a when your opponent has a problem. Sometimes the way you answer it isn't like with a direct answer, but like through the board presence, you create. I mean, obviously, yeah, like there's like kind of a few things. It's like number one, like yeah, like if your opponent lands a planeswalker, like they could like a Ral, for example, right? Maybe you're playing against some blue
yeah,
red deck
Ralph's
and
a
they
good example.
play Ral. It's like the way you're supposed to beat this is you're supposed to be ahead on board. Like you're supposed to have artist talent, and you're supposed to have monument, or you're supposed to try and accumulate wisdom. Like you're trying to beat it by like having that advantage. And like if your hand's all reactive spells that don't line up as a planeswalker are really tough, but you're trying to like you have some counter spells, quench, spell pierce, whatever. Boomerang basics. Like obviously like the reason the planeswalker is good, it's like good because you don't have artist talent or monument or an accumulated wisdom or a grand going or like a storm chaser like boomerang your own storm chaser. Like yeah, like I can imagine there's situations where they play a planeswalker and you have too much interaction in hand, but I think that's kind of how you're trying to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like having your monument, having like for example, imagine if your opponent plays Ral, but if you have artist talent in play, then you just got to go play monument, boomerang basics the Ral, trigger it, and now the Ral looks embarrassing, right? Because like you use the
Yeah,
monument to make it seem slow, or like even better, you go boomerang basics it, play grand play accumulated wisdom for 1 mana, pass was like quench up. Like you're trying to beat it with those threats. If you don't have any threats, if they disable, like it's not the planeswalker that's beating you, it's more the fact that you don't have anything going on, I would say, that's beating you,
yeah,
or that they interacted. Like let's say your opponent goes duress, take your talent, let's say they interact with all your threats and play a planeswalker. It's not that the planeswalker is problematic, it's that they interacted with all your threats. So like that's why even like a card like Riddler could even have a small value in that way. So it's just trying to really understand what pain is the planeswalker causing. Because yeah, the way you want to beat it, like you don't play good interaction for them outside of like spell pierce. If you play spell pierce, um, but I mean I just think spell pierce is good, but it's not like it's a and all be like spell pierce doesn't work against Kaido. Like your best counterplay to Kaido is like try and like boomerang basics or an otter, or like that's why you might sideboard 1 or 2 broadside barrages, try and help with it a bit. But I don't know if that answers your question or if there's anything you want to add on that.
no, yeah, that's really helpful. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it makes sense. I guess like the games when I feel like I can't beat a planeswalker, I'm always behind. Um, it's like I don't really have anything going on. I guess like yeah, there was a match yesterday. They landed a Ral, but like it just didn't matter at all. Like I had like the
Because you were ahead.
monument artist
Yeah.
talent thing. Yeah, it's just like you can like I could storm off the next turn, and I just like ignored the Ral completely. So yeah, no, I guess that's true. I wonder if like when do lessons come back? Like don't they like one of the sets? It's not the next one, right? It's the
Strixhaven,
uh
Harry
yeah,
Potter thing.
Strixhaven. Like I heard something about like they're gonna have Strixhaven next year or some shit. Like I just don't remember when.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. We'll see, I guess. If it's even legal still or whatever. I mean, that's one good thing for deck selection. Play the decks you think should be banned. I feel like I like that's something that always helps me. I'm like I just feel like this lessons deck. Like I don't. I mean, I don't know. I'm not that locked in right now, but it does seem a little bit offensive. Like when I play against it, it feels kind of offensive to me.
I
Like
mean,
the grand shit.
yeah.
Like they play turn one
I,
and I feel like it can't win. Yeah.
I was talking to my wife the other day about it. Like, she's like, why do you keep playing this deck? And I told her, I'm like, Daniel told me, I'm like, my coach told me that it has like, like 2 to 3% higher win rate, against the majority of the field. And like, why would I give that up? And it's true because like, I will play some really like heinous plays, and this deck just bails me out so much. Like, there's so many free wins, and like wins I just don't deserve to have. And so I don't know, when a deck is that broken, like it does seem silly to play something else. Like why I was playing like blue eye control before this. It was like 48% win rate or whatever. Like, so, I mean, this deck, it's like at worst I'm winning half the time, but like I'm pretty sure my win rate's like north of 55% right now. Just like looking at the past week and challenges and stuff like that. So, yeah, like why wouldn't I, play the
Yeah.
deck that gives me free wins even when I'm like fucking it up and shit.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
would say if you play something, at least like try and be, intentional that it's powerful. Like I don't like the landfall deck. I look at it and I'm like, okay, at least like it's powerful. It's worth trying. I'm not closed minded. I just want to find what's good, but I don't want to be the guy showing up with Golgari mid range for no reason. You know what I mean? So I want to have a thesis for my deck, kind of like I'm like I want it to be like have an understanding of what it's doing that's powerful. And yeah, I mean this deck
Yeah.
is pretty nice. But also like I think a big reason people have problems playing the biggest deck is a lot of times people will think of like a binary, like a deck will be a good choice or a bad choice for the weekend. Like you had to be, you should have been there at PT Nadu because so many people were like, will Nadu be a bad choice this weekend? Like they're like, it's either going to be a good choice or a bad choice. But if you like think of it as like, sure, the win rates of the deck, it's like, what's the estimated win rate to be? Like probably like 56%. Like even the worst decks, like let's say the worst deck in the standard is like, I don't know, whatever, something bad, and it's like 46%. It's a
Yeah.
46%. Like let's say like a good deck's like 52%. 46 and 52. I mean, they are pretty big difference, but they're actually it's not like you know what I mean. It's not like 10% versus 90%. Like that's kind of when people are talking. Like that's why they're scared to play the best deck. They for some reason think the best deck's gonna be like a 10% winner. I don't know what they're thinking. But you know what I mean? Like literally, that's why I don't like. I look at the worst deck in the format, and I'm like, yeah, it probably is gonna win 44% of the time because that's actually I have respect for the worst deck because you're gonna lose to it sometime, and you're like you have to understand how it works so you can play against it. So it's like yeah, like
Right.
it's about the 2%, and also that's why because a lot of times this is what happens. Like I like people will play a deck and they're like everyone said the deck's broken, but I lost with it, so they must be lying or whatever. But it's like it's hard. Like if you think about it, it's actually hard to get that high of a win rate because like let's say a deck is a 56% win rate at the PT and everyone's like it's broken. Like 56% is like not that high if you actually think about it. That means people like lost like a good amount of the games they played with it. That means you have to lose those games and still like have an understanding of like this is why I'm sticking with the deck. Like you have to be able to lose and be like okay like did I lose because there was a better game plan or did I lose because like the way that the context played out like you're like well my opponent had a good draw like it makes sense if I lose because they had a good draw you know what I mean? Like that's like another thing too. Like if your opponent has a good draw, you don't have to feel bad about losing. Like you should only feel bad about losing if their draw is bad. You know what I mean? Because like I don't like if like if you play a game and my opponent goes like Storm Chasers, Talon 1, Boomerang, Basics, it, whatever, and then I lose, and I'm like, and then you're like, oh, maybe Lessons is bad against Scam. But if you actually thought about the game, it's like no, they literally just had the Boomerang Basics, whatever. Like literally any deck would be weak to that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I guess it's
Yeah.
just like really understanding like like yeah you have to really like because you play Hogak or whatever you're gonna lose as the deck and you kind of have to stick with it because yeah, the difference is small, right? Like let's say Hogak's the best deck, like or more recent, let's say Corey Steel's the best deck, Corey Steel Cutter's the best deck, and like maybe Blue White Omni or Mono Red Aggro's the second best, and they're 54. The 56, 54, you can't really see it in the game to game. It's not that obvious. It's kind of subtle. You actually kind of, but it actually does play out on the big picture
Yeah.
because imagine, well, you said imagine 2% returns. I mean, that's a giant difference. It's kind of the same in Magic because it's a 2% win rate difference, but it's 2% over 16 rounds. So you do 2% times 16. You know what I mean? So,
Right. Yeah.
and the 2% kind of means more than 2%. Because, yeah, if you want to make the 2% sound big, well, it's 2%, but it's 54 versus, like, the 2% is only in a 20% band. Like, the band's only, like, between 40 to 60%. 2%, like, the band is very small. You know what I mean? It's very hard to actually get 2% is in that band. But also, it does matter. But also, it's subtle. It's hard. Like, that's why you can't just, it's not easy to just be like, this is the deck that's 2% better. You kind of need to pause and think about it. And you have to lose a bunch of times. And you're like, you're only, like, be keeping in mind, you're only 2% better. Or you could literally have the most broken deck. Like, you're literally playing Hogak. You're only going to win 56% of the time. That's not that high. You kind of have to be aware that, like, the broken deck loses. And, like, that's where something probably people go wrong because they have the broken deck. They feel, they get really emotional. They're like, my opponent's deck's bad. How am I losing? Whatever. But you kind of have to be like, just understand, like, even if your opponent's playing the worst deck, their deck's still trying to do something powerful. They still have a game plan. And you know what I mean? And like there's a if they have a good draw, you have a bad draw, maybe your weakness lines into their strengths, whatever. Like you saw that game, like the green, it looked like you're kind of behind. It's like, well, what happened here? Well, they played 3 1 drops, and your hand's a bunch of 2 drops and 3 drops. So like, that could be
Yeah.
problematic. So that's kind of what I would say about that and the power. And but yeah, I don't think it's Magic Sport X, but like just keep in mind, like yeah, like that's why a good rule of thumb is like, what do I think should not be legal? Because then that's at least probably pretty good. You know what I mean? Or what's like really
Yeah.
annoying
No,
to
this
play
deck.
against. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty. I have a feeling this deck's gonna see some bans in February, whenever. Like it definitely. I mean, and like I don't know, like a good like this is purely anecdotal, but I just noticed like every time you see people rage quitting like to a deck when it starts doing its thing, it's usually like a sign that like they're gonna ban the deck. Like it's pretty consistent. And I think we're like kind of at the maturity point with this deck where people are sick of it. Like you start storming off. Like I mean there are plenty of games where I don't even feel like it's locked up yet. I mean maybe I'm 65%, 75% to win or something, and the opponents just like scoop it up, and like that tells me that yeah, people are sick of the brokenness, right? Like they're trying to play more fair games or whatever, and like this deck is just not fair. I don't know. Like I mean, it seems like there's a lot of goldfishy stuff going on in standard right now, and there's a lot of like one shot kill crap. But like this deck is just bizarrely consistent and like really versatile too. Like I know like I'm talking about how I'm struggling with sideboarding and stuff. But I mean the sideboarding slots like are surprisingly versatile. Like it's not super difficult to like put cards in that have like a really wide spread, which I'm really happy about with this deck. Like spell pierces, like the quenches,
Owl
the like yeah, the owl, which I actually want to go back to. Like yeah,
and
so
all.
that actually segues into another thing I wanted to do, which is if you're open to this, um, I wanted to like try to put together my own like sideboard map and sort of just guide, just like explaining like pretty much a thesis for every matchup. I wanted to see if you could help me like review that, and like you could do it on stream if you want, like as like one of our next coaching sessions, just to try to kind of tighten up my game plan and like have something I can memorize and recite, so that I'm not like so aimless during the sideboarding. It feels like it's pretty long overdue, but like I'm pretty locked in on the deck at the moment. I do need to do more practice with other decks. Like there's still cards in like Demir that I don't really know the full lists. Like I need to get better at like memorizing the cards in the field. But like at the moment, I don't see myself switching over to a different deck entirely. Like before the at least the next RC. I don't know about the February RC. I might switch to something by then, but unless like the Lorwyn spoilers, like there's something just so clearly broken, I'll probably be sticking with this and just trying to be as good as I can with it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the versatility thing is definitely real. Like, I think a lot of people miss, like, it's almost more for limited than constructed, but it's like versatility is a form of power that like people don't like aren't as acknowledging of. But it's like a very like the way I would describe it is there's sometimes like you're like some decks, their game plan just doesn't work against another deck's game plan. You know what I mean? Imagine if you're playing Burn and your opponent's playing Mono White Life Gain, right? You know what I mean? Like your game plan
Yeah.
just doesn't work against them. A versatile deck means that like your game plan works against no matter what your opponent's playing. That's a form of power because if you're in a position where your deck's game plan doesn't work against their deck, number one, that's why doing the most proactive thing is good. Because if you're the one doing the most powerful thing, that means your opponent's always reacting to you. That means it limits how bad the matchup can be. You know what I mean? Because like if you,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
like
love
if you're
that.
yeah, like if you're playing a deck, yeah. So that's the whole point. That's like part of what's good about being proactive and strong is that whatever's happening, your game plan is good no matter what you play against. Whereas if you're trying to be metagaming or doing any finicky deck, you might just be in a bad spot because your game plan doesn't line up well and you don't have the power to carry you. But yeah, the versatility's like that's definitely like I would say that's more even for draft. Like I think it's really important to understand a draft because people have like a huge problem with cards. Like they'll only like look at the power and they won't understand like how how versatility is like really important. But then I would say, yeah, the thing that's weird is like when you're like really confident in the deck you play, it's kind of weird because you kind of have to like really smugly believe your deck is the best deck or one of the best decks. But at the same time, you also have to believe you don't want to be the guy who's like, my deck is so good, how am I losing to that? Like, you also have to be aware of the reality that your deck's only like 2% better than the next spec deck, and like only 6% better than whatever, because you have to like be aware of the reality. Like when you're playing the game, you have to know that you're not actually that far ahead, so you still have to play tight. You can't be too conservative. You know what I mean? So it's like kind of like a weird mix where you have to be like, yeah,
Yeah.
I know I have the best deck, but also I know it's only by a few percent, so I'm not actually that much ahead, which is kind of like a weird place to be. But I think that's like, I mean, what makes sense probably if you actually if you think about what the definition of playing a best deck is. Like just realizing you're not actually that ahead against people, and that makes it so much more freeing. Because if you have this chip on your shoulder, like I have the best deck, I need to prove it, and then you're losing, and you're like, man,
Yeah.
like you got this chip on your shoulder. But if you're like you understand that your win rate's capped, and the only it's not a big sample of like a million or a billion. It's like out of like what's the best plan out of a million games? Like if that's what I mean. Like people are obsessed with these corner cases. If you're like, what will give me the best win rate if I play a million games? Then you might say, oh, blessings easily, right? But then if you start
Yeah.
thinking what's going to give me the best win rate for the tournament, people are like panicking, like I'm only, you know what I mean? But as soon as you make the sample bigger, it's way easier to be comfortable with what you're doing. As long as you think of a million or a billion sample, then you're like, okay, I should do this on the big sample, and maybe it'll be rough on the small sample, but obviously, that's the only thing that makes sense, right? So, yeah.
That makes so much sense. It reminds me of the point you made about like, making plays, like against the average outcome rather than the corner cases. Like there's a term in my line of work called bike shedding. I don't know if you're familiar with that term. Like when, you're in a meeting, I work in like a corporate world or whatever. And like, it'll be a 2 hour, it's scheduled to be a 30-minute meeting, ends up being a 2 hour meeting. And like 90% of the conversation is about like some corner case issue that just like literally doesn't matter in the grand scheme. And they call that bike shedding. I think it originates from like NASA or something, like where like you're building a rocket, but like you spend 90% of your time talking about like the bike shed, like on the rocket ship grounds or whatever, and like how the bike shed will be built or whatever. And so like it's the same thing. It's the same concept as what you're describing. Just like we have that in the corporate world, basically. Like don't bike shed, like just focus on like the macro, right? Like how would this work at scale? Um, and like, yeah, this deck is absolutely like at scale. I think of all the decks I've tried so far, like this one is clearly the one. Like, I mean, the bias is I put in the most games with it, but like it feels the most versatile. It feels like in an open field, it'll have the highest win rate. It has the best goldfish. Like, yeah. So I struggled to see myself like playing something like Landfall because it's a lot narrower. I mean, it does have a lot of free wins and stuff. And I think like a really good pilot could probably take that, to first place just fine. But like I think considering I'm not a great player, but with a deck like Lessons, I'm getting a lot of free wins. Like that to me is really telling. Like the fact that the deck could be so forgiving.
And it's such a hard
And
deck to play anyway. It's not like it's an easy deck to play, I would say,
yeah, yeah, 100%.
And
Yeah,
it's
but
like the Paulo article, yeah. It's like the
say
part
that
of
again.
it's like the article I said like Paulo wrote the article about the VV deck this summer. It's like this deck's insanely hard to play, but don't worry, like most of the time it doesn't matter because you have so many cards.
Yeah.
Like it's like yeah, like sequencing properly was it's like kind of similar, but this one might matter a bit more. But yeah, I mean also I mean like one of the problems with landfall, not to get into it that much, but it's like one thing about the landfall deck is if people really want to prepare to beat it, somebody could play a bunch of owls, right? And owls actually like just pretty tough for the landfall deck. There's not really a hate card
Yeah.
on the same level for this deck. Like how hateable is my deck? I mean, I'm not saying I like if somebody is regging landfall, I don't have a problem with it. But I'm just saying, like that's also one thing to keep in mind. Like if landfall becomes like I'm not trying to talk about metagaming, but it is worth keeping in mind. Like there are pretty good tools against the landfall deck that people aren't playing now. That like let's say you go to a spotlight and like everybody's like let's say landfall is dominating online and then like half the people have two of the owls. And then you're like, oh man, like imagine playing the whole tournament and every opponent has two owls in their blue deck. It's like gotta be tougher
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
love that. I love any deck where Shark Typhoon is viable. That used to be my favorite card. I had all the like the cool looking Shark Typhoon tokens and shit. Like it was just such a fun
Well,
playstyle.
it's not it's like they're using it as a hate bear. They're just using it for the search mode, like blue whenever you search your deck, put a counter and draw a card. Like it's so obscene against the landfall deck. Like that's why I threw the sideboard. Like how can I not put two? That's like one of the most obscene hate cards I've ever seen. Like I mean, but like what the hell, man? Like it's literally blue every time they do anything, draw a card and put a counter. It's like what is this? Like, it's got to be like one of the. It's like playing poor Firewalker against Mono Red or something. It's like I can't. I have to put that in my sideboard. Like what else are you putting? Like a braid, a broadside, like just like nonsense. But you put this like the chance. Yeah, your improvement when your win rate when you draw that card, it must be so high against landfall. Like I don't know. Like I'm just reading the card. It's like
Dude,
one of the most obscene
yeah,
cards I've seen.
I'm stoked to try it. It sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, and that's like, yeah, that's just. I mean, it's so weird that it's such a good hate card against landfall. Like, I don't feel like they print hate cards that good. But I guess it's just a deck that searches, and they randomly printed this mythic that punishes searching for some
I
reason.
wonder,
And there's
like,
still a ramp deck and standard stuff.
yeah, I want to believe it was intentional, but like, I doubt it. I
It's,
don't think that
I
they're
don't
doing
know.
it on
Yeah, I
purpose.
mean, that makes sense. It's well, they put a safety valve in case landfall was too strong. So for Ice Steel was too cheap.
They probably put it in for like Tifa or some shit. I don't know. Like it does feel like Landfall's pretty pushed. Like the number of like cards that they've printed. There's been so many variants. I don't think any of them have been tier one or anything. Maybe this one is, but like I mean, there has been a lot of attention put toward Landfall like in the recent sets. It's pretty fascinating. Like because like there was already a Landfall deck and there were like different variations of it, but like the core of it was like the Chocobo and Tifa and like I know they had like the Teamer version. I saw that at the Spotlight. And and then Might Form Harmonizer out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like it's just like it just seems so pushed.
Yeah, I mean, I thought like in the summer, like when I was playing that VV deck, I thought the mono green landfall deck was like one of the only decks that could actually kill you on Goldfish. You know what I mean? So I was already
Yeah,
kind of aware of the landfall deck, and I remember before Worlds, I because nobody played the landfall deck at Worlds really. It said Simon said he considered it, and I said like I thought the landfall deck was already fine in the summer, and they literally just like this Badgermole Cub is probably literally the best in landfall, you know, for obvious reasons.
yeah,
And also they got the deck got Ice Tail Explorer I think in the no it already had it but like, yeah, well, that's the thing that's good about Landfall. It's like, what's good about the deck? It's like, well, I guess to play two broken cards. Like, Ice Tail Explorers like feels pretty broken in the deck, and also so does Badger Mole Cub. So like, you kind of get these two cards that like kind of give you free wins. You know what I mean? Like, if you play Badger Mole Cub and your opponent doesn't have removal, it can kind of be like a free win. But it's the same with like Ice Tail. Like, if you play Ice Tail and your opponent doesn't have something crazy going on, like if the Landfall deck plays Ice Tail, it's kind of a free win. So you just have these like two push cards, and like the definition of them being pushed is like if my like you can be like what like can my opponent beat this? Like it's like can a threat like the kind of the way to think about it is like like not can an answer beat a threat, but can a threat beat a threat? Because if their threats can't beat your threats, it just means your threats are more powerful, right? Because like you don't always
yeah,
have the luxury to answer with an answer. You kind of want to play the threats that beat the other threats because that means that yeah, like you see what I'm saying. So it's like yeah, I still
yeah,
explore if
yeah,
they don't have an answer to it, like they can't beat like if they're playing nonsense, they're gonna lose to it. And yeah, it has Badger Mole and it gets to play like even the Chocobo's kind of nice because it's a one mana giant creature and like it's a good elf. Like I'm usually a big Land War elf hater, but you know, it just yeah, it works. Like, but it's like you kind of want to identify like what are the cards that are good because like it's like yeah, like to me, I think the cards that are really big in the deck is Ice Tail and Badger Mole Cub, and obviously the shell works well. Like it has the combo of the Brood Wagon plus the Might Form's kind of nice that if they ever tap out, you can just kill them. And like Might Form obviously works
yeah.
well with the Ascension. Ascension's good. Like it just has a lot of things that work well. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. It works well. But then you look at another deck in standard, and I see people are playing mono red with zero good cards. And I'm like, okay, I don't see the vision here as much. You know what I mean? So you kind of want the thesis for the deck, like to understand why the deck's good and whatever, to help with the deck selection. But yeah,
Love that, man.
yeah.
Hell yeah.
But
Cool, man. All right, awesome. Well, yeah, so I'm gonna be traveling back home. So I'll be out the next few days, but I'll hit you up, you know, before the end of the weekend, and I'll start working on my own like sideboard guide and try to like not finalize, but like you know, come up with like a core list that you know I could stick to. And yeah, I'll share that out with you. And like, I mean, if you want to do it as like a coaching session on stream, or if you want to just do it over Discord, you know, either way works for me. But it'll help to just kind of get my game plan buttoned down and stuff.
yeah, I would say the sideboard guide stuff is tricky. I mean, we can try and do it, but one thing I'd say, like, I mean, this like I remember a couple weeks ago somebody was asking, you know, Duke, if you know that guy, not Reed Duke, the other Duke, how like a sideboard
Yeah,
question, and he just answered, "It depends." And that's kind of and like that Duke is like a super good player. I think he has like a bunch of PT top eights, and I'm like, that's the problem with sideboard guys because that's the real answer right there. It depends. You know what I mean? Like that's it's so like I mean I'm not saying that I'm
yeah,
against doing the sideboard guide, but it's like you always like so many of the things are contextual based on the deck list and what they have, and especially like it depends on the level. And like I think like a good sideboard guide is like trying to be like for example like trying to be like okay here's a general idea of the in and outs and these are the considerations, but also like being able to be aware of the you know the things like today I was testing against Scam and my opponent didn't have a braid in his list. I'm like oh I signed it differently because he didn't have you know he didn't have a braid, but like if my opponent has a braid it's the same matchup or you know what I mean. I was noticing I'm like oh like yesterday the guy had no spell pierces today a spell like you know those things actually do matter because it actually does change the you know change the matchup. But I would kind of it's very hard because not only number one can it depend on their deck list, but number two, a lot of times you actually might not know the best way to sideboard because it's kind of like you might have an idea in mind of how to sideboard, but you're not necessarily sure if it's the best plan. Like you have different options, you know, whatever how to approach the sideboarding. Like today I was, you know, siding out a bunch of monuments, but then after the games I was like, actually maybe I need the monuments. You know what I mean? So it's more like I would say like you kind of want yeah, I mean you want to ask the questions and you can kind of you can kind of do that. Like sometimes for the PT, I'll kind of have an idea. Like I'll take the most popular decks, and I'll kind of be like, this is kind of generally what I want to do. But I'll also write the considerations. Maybe I can see what I wrote for the color ones. Like I was like against mono red, this is what I
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
But if they have this, then maybe do this differently. But it's very like it's extremely hard to. I think the last time what I actually did was the last time I made a cyborg guide. My plan is I just made a video and like for every map, like I put like too long, like didn't read like a basic whatever, but I made like a 4 or 5 minute video kind of discussing the matchup being like, this is the kind of way that I see the matchup
That's
and the
yeah.
consider.
Like I would say that that's so like the cyborg guide might be the wrong term because like for me the mappings aren't that relevant. It's more about like developing an agency, like a sense of agency around like the matchup, like having like a thesis for each matchup, right? Like a game plan. Like like Nathan's example of like for the green white control, like or like for the green white matchup with lessons, he's like, I'm taking on a control role. Like, I'm going all in on interaction and Riddler has become my win con or whatever. And, no comment on, whether or not that's correct, but more it's like, I need to develop like a sense. It's more like a matchup guide or something, like where it's like, what am I trying to, like, what is my thesis, or hypothesis or whatever on like how to approach this matchup? And even with a recognition, like even that could change. Like it's a lot more macro than like specific cards being boarded in and out. But like I want to get to a point where I actually start to develop some agency around that. And I think I could use like a sounding board there. But like yeah, I agree with you completely. Like I'm thinking back to like yesterday, that replay we were watching where it was against like looting and like I think in game two I took out like the monuments and the artist talent, and you kind of kicked my ass about the artist talents, but then I saw that they basically like took on this complete like draw go control like game plan, and they just had like a shit ton of counter spells. And I was like, okay, great. I could just bring in all my, the monuments back, the artist talents back, because like none of their counter spells like really hit the stuff, like, like all their weird
Spidey
like
sense.
spider senses and stuff like, and it worked really well. Like, I mean, that's a perfect example of where like, my game plan for that matchup, maybe that wasn't a correct game plan to begin with, but like, I mean, I had to board differently because of the way the list was built and how the opponent wanted to approach the matchup and stuff.
Yeah, like yeah, that makes sense. Like you kind of want to like be like, yeah, what approach should I take? And you can kind of see like I was alluding to that. Like I was like, okay, in this matchup, what do you want to bounce his boomerang basics? Is it going to be good? But yeah, kind of having those big
Exactly.
picture
Yeah.
approaches to the matchup. And like sometimes, yeah, your win rate gets way better in the matchup when you make a connection of like, oh, like this card's important for this reason, and then you can kind of play with that in mind. Like when sometimes you make a realization where you're like,
Yeah.
oh, the matchup's about this. Especially when it's a cantrip heavy deck and you kind of need to know things beforehand. Like one brief example is I remember in Pioneer when I was playing Phoenix, which is kind of similar in Rakdos midrange. That was like a really weird matchup to wrap your head around, the Phoenix versus Rakdos midrange. But in the end, the kind of way that I thought about the matchup was like the way the Rakdos midrange deck win. Like I was like, all the Phoenix cards are more efficient than the Rakdos cards. So the Rakdos just wins when like the Phoenix has like a non like makes the draw of the Phoenix player like flood out basically, like not have dead mana. Because like if the Phoenix player has dead mana, it doesn't matter, the cards are more efficient. So they try and win with like discard spells on license first, whatever. But then like when I had that in mind, I'm like, okay, now I want more cantrips. Like that's when I'm like, okay, I want more Prismari commands. I want more plane. Like that's when I started siding some planeswalkers because I kind of realized I'm like the way they win is like by basically making me flood if making me have dead mana. So I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna try and have more cantrips. But like if I didn't have that in mind,
Yeah.
it gets confusing because people are like, oh, they have Shieldred. I'm gonna lose to Shieldred. But you're actually like, actually I have good answers to Shieldred. I have Lightning Axe. It's a 1 mana answer to Shieldred. The only thing is if I just don't have like the card draw to facilitate that. So like that's helpful because then before I thought of it like that, it was way harder to approach the matchup. But after I'm like, okay, it's actually just about stock mana theory. It was
Yeah.
easy. But
No, I love that. Yeah, that's like exactly the type of thinking I need to start applying for like some of the more popular matchups and stuff.
yeah,
And I think I'll be like I'll probably be. I wouldn't even say like, oh, this is a one time exercise for me. Like I think it's like getting it kickstarted would be really good, and then it'll obviously probably change every week, just given like the way the just looking at the standard challenges alone, it's like that if I'm using that as kind of like an idea of what I'm up against, like it and what cards are being played and stuff like that, it's probably going to be shifting, pretty regularly, especially with Lorwyn coming out and all that. But yeah, something to keep me grounded, I think would be really helpful. And yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be a good exercise, but I'll try to like come up with like a list that like I want to try to run for a while. I think the core of the list has pretty much remained unchanged. I mean, there's very few flex slots. It's mostly just the
It's like
sideboard
the
and the
removal spell. It's like the interaction
yeah,
and the sideboard slots.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the sideboard slots, like, yeah, there's a little bit of like interaction in the main board, but like beyond that, I really think it's mostly about just how to approach the matchups. Like, there's a lot of, I think like different opinions that have merit. I think a lot of your opinions, like they resonate a lot with me. Um, and just trying to kind of like lock in on like the point you made about Grand, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I would have arrived to that on my own. I think I instinctually did, like you saw in game 3, like I brought the Grand back in. Like I was like, I need it. But it's yeah, it'd probably be helpful, especially because like I'm not like running into every game, right? Like so like I think like there's gonna always have to be some amount of theory crafting. Like I don't know when you're prepping like with your PT team and stuff. Like if you guys are like literally doing every single matchup that you expect or what, but I imagine that there's got to be like some amount of like theory crafting that has to go into like prep, right? Where there's only so much time, and especially for me, like I have a full time job and stuff, so like I mean, there's gonna have to be some amount of like theorizing and just hoping for like some of the more fringe matchups and stuff like that. That I'll just have a decent game plan and just implement it when the time comes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to be like in tune with your deck and just like it's just thinking like, what's the strengths and weaknesses of their deck? What are the strengths and weaknesses of my deck? Like how do I plan
Yeah,
around that? And just, I mean, even just a simple question, like I always say, like when are we gonna feel good about casting Boomerang Basics? Like it's not that complicated. It's just like,
yeah,
and obviously it's tricky because Boomerang Basics has this weird sort of curve the way it works, where like it can be really good or really bad. You know what I mean? But it's like you could just think like what like how like what do I want to bounce? What, and it's like, and like what are the, yeah, what are they weak to? It's like, for example, sometimes they'll put you think about Lumbering Broodwagon, and you're like, man, that card's pretty annoying. It's pretty hard to stop. You're like, but how do I stop it? Yeah, maybe I need a
yeah.
threat. And also, I mean, I mean, I would say I had a better. I mean, I'll just say a brief thing. Like I was gonna say a longer version of it, but a short version. Have you ever like? I think it applies to Magic well, where like, oh no, yeah, I was gonna say like I mean, I was gonna say something along the lines of like how it's so much easier to like. Oh yeah, now I remember what I was gonna say. I was gonna say like when you like understand what your realistic win rate is, it makes it so much easier to process what's happening. Because like, let's say you play Nadu and you're like, Nadu's an all-in deck, so you're like, yeah, I'm gonna lose like 40% of the game, but I'm just gonna try and do my Nadu thing and hope it works. But like the
Yeah.
trouble arises when you start thinking that like I need to try and win every game, and any game I lose is a disaster. And like a good example is I realized it actually has a perfect crossover. Is people want too much agency, and the best example is have you heard the analogy of like how the dead investor outperforms everybody? Have you heard that
No,
example?
I've never heard of that.
Okay, like the analogy is like the people who have the best trading accounts of all times, like some dead is it always like a dead person who hasn't traded in 100 years or whatever. And I think I don't know how true that anecdote is. I think it's like kind of true. I mean I don't know exactly because maybe it
It
has a
makes
fringe cases.
sense. It reminds me of like index fund investing. Like if you just like don't play the stock market and put all your money in index funds, like you're much more likely to make more money
Yeah.
over the course of 10 years.
But it's more, yeah, it's like always like a fringe example of like, oh, this guy like bought Apple, like had a bunch of Apple, but then he died in 1978 or whatever. No, he just, I mean, obviously that's probably, but like, you know what I mean? But it kind of makes sense. And it's like, okay, why does it, like, people are like, oh yeah, that's so true. Like, but it's like, why does it make sense? It's because people want, like, they want this agency, and it just like fucks them up, because it's the same thing in both Magic and yeah, with the dead investors. It's like people want all this agency, so they do all this extra shit, like signing into grant, like, signing fancy,
Yeah.
whatever. And it's like you just have to accept the reality of your agency, that it's like 60% and play to that. And it's kind of the same thing. Like it's the same like with the like people who want to read the news every day and they're like, is it time to get in, get out? And it's just like you just accept your 60% win rate, and that'll probably outperform rather than you trying to. I mean, that's part of why, yeah, like people like just do an index, don't trade. I mean, it's more complicated than that, but it's like, yeah, you want this feeling of agency, like you want this feeling of control, but it's like you kind of have to submit to the fact that just accept your 60% or whatever and move on with it. Like I do think it's similar because it's so true. Like people want this agency, but it just hurts them so much that like people are like, oh man, wouldn't it be great to be dead? Then I'd be a good investor for once. So it's literally the same. Like you just need to be at peace with whatever it is. I think it applies. Yeah.
Dude, that is like you should write an article on that alone. I mean, that is such a. I mean, it's so counterintuitive, but it makes so much sense. There's so many parallels to that in business too. Like, holy shit. Um, yeah, that's really clever.
So, yeah. But yeah. Anyway, I guess yeah. Let me know whenever you're around later. I guess yeah. We're
I'll
wrapping
hit
up
you up
now.
before like end of day Sunday, and like we will lock down like
Yeah.
a time
Yeah.
next week. I'll be back at work, so it's like the usual hours and evenings and stuff. But like I think pretty much all the weekdays I should be free except for like Monday or something. But I'll hit you up Sunday and we can lock it down.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. No, I mean, the last thing I'll say. I mean, that's what I realized. Like, so much of like making the good decisions is like counterintuitive, and sometimes it's almost like in a simple way. Like, it's like making the simple decision is counterintuitive. Like keeping in all your like grand grants or whatever. Like somehow that's the counterintuitive. Like a cookie, just doing the simple things is sometimes the counterintuitive. But it's like